Gorgeous, gorgeous morning out there. And if you, when you step out the door, you'll see what I mean. It's in the high 60s, I think, probably.
Yeah, 66.
What temperature are you dealing with over there, Kim?
66.
All right. I don't want to break any news, but you're going to have a great Friday on your hands, no doubt about that.
Oh, you mean what temperature is it in the studio or what temperature is it outside? Because
No.
it's about 50 degrees in the studio.
It is definitely chilly in here. Yeah, I almost hate to complain about that anymore because all my friends who work outside for a living keep reminding me that they play tiny violins every time we complain about how cold it is in here.
Ladies do not like to be cold.
I know. You have to warn anybody who's coming in here as a guest to wear a sweatshirt, but that's all right. I'd rather be cold than hot. You can always put extra layers on. That's my
This is true.
that's my approach to it. Particularly when you're trying to broadcast in here and concentrate. You don't want to be sweating for sure. This whole flock thing has blown up overnight, hasn't it?
Yeah, the whole St. Charles County thing.
Yeah, I saw that story yesterday afternoon. I went out to the BMW Championship for a little while. In fact, I've got my swag on this morning. I picked up a shirt when I was out there at the merch store, and I started getting texts and phone calls about this when it broke. And we're going to get Joe Brazel on here a little later in the 8 o'clock hour to talk about it because they apparently banned flock in St. Charles County, but they haven't done away with license plate readers. And I think there's an important distinction there, right? Flock is one company that follows you when you drive around and collects your license plate information. It's not the only company that does it, because I thought I heard Kurt Frizz yesterday, the chief out there, say that there's another company that they also contract with that does license plate reading. And my quick take on this, my hot take, is that we have a little bit of hysteria, I think, when it comes to these license plate readers. I'm starting to believe that. I think there is a role for them. I think what happened in St. Charles County, my first take on that is what happened in St. Charles County is a great example of the system working because they caught the person that was abusing it and they took immediate action. Are these things going away forever? I'm not convinced that they are.
Well, how many?
To me, it's almost like data centers. I think there's a little bit of hysteria pushback against data centers. And somebody pointed out this to me yesterday. Don't want to make anybody mad this early on a Friday morning, that golf courses use 20 to 30% more water than a data center. And nobody's out there demanding to know about the cost of that extra use of water on a golf course or how it affects the community. Nobody brings that up, but they do bring it up when it comes to data centers. So I think some people take it a little bit too far in their concern over this. Not that I want to be tracked everywhere. I think it should be tightly regulated from the chief right on down as to who can access it. But if they're looking for the guy that carjacked my child, I want the police to have that tool available to them.
How many other departments, though, would have done what St. Charles County did, which is said, okay, we're just going to stop using them? Like the investigations going on in some of these other states, even where some of the officers have been arrested. Because remember, this was not an officer. This was a civilian employee is how the person was described. We don't know their specific role, but we know they're with the department in some capacity.
Right.
But
And no longer with the department.
They were put on unpaid leave and then they resigned. But how many other departments do you think would actually make the decision to just up and say we're done?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do think, again, I think there's a distinction there that they're not done with license plate readers. They're done with flock, and I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately what we're going to need to do is get Chief Frizz on here and let him explain the difference there.
Well, because weren't they using flock in part for that too?
They were, but there are also other companies that do license plate reading, and
so why would you need flock?
I don't know.
Just additional cameras? They had 28 of them they were using.
Flock is a private company.
Right.
And the city contracted with them for those cameras you were talking about. They also have access to cameras that don't necessarily belong to the city. Like if a neighborhood has a Flock camera at the front of their neighborhood that the homeowners association paid for, they share that data. They can choose to share that data with the police. So there's still access to license plate readers. Maybe that there was an issue with that particular contract. Those are questions I don't have answers to, but I think it's something that we need to talk through here before just automatically deciding that because of this one incident that all Flock cameras are bad, all license plate readers are bad. And there may be, I know there's the libertarian out there among us who is going to say that they are all bad because they're an invasion of your privacy. And if you're driving around doing nothing wrong, there's no reason why some system needs to be tracking your goings and comings. And as long as we're sure that's not what it's being used for and the guidelines are in place, I think what happened in St. Charles County reached its investigative conclusion very quickly, fired the offender, and took steps to make sure that's not going to happen again.
Well, and keep in mind, this was an audit tool that was just implemented not that long ago. That's how it was caught.
Designed to do.
It was January 1st of this year where it goes through and it automatically scans for questionable searches. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caught this. So think about how many situations there have been probably before this was implemented. I'm not just talking about St. Charles County. I'm talking about nationwide where this has been misused. Anything good, you're going to have there's always the bad apples. It's like any profession. You have some wackadoodle who is going to do something that makes everyone start to question the entire industry.
Yep. I agree. We're going to have more of that discussion a little bit later. In fact, we've got Congressman Eric Burlison coming on today. He wants to talk about data centers and Flock cameras. And then we're going to get County Councilman Joe Brazel on here. I believe I read a post yesterday, a press release from the Conservative Freedom Caucus, they call it now, from the Missouri Senate, where Nick Schroer is talking about maybe a Flock ban in the state of Missouri. And I don't know. I want to talk through that with him. I think that you can overreact to these things. There's got to be some good use coming from that. I mean, ultimately, people can also abuse their ability to call in a license plate for a law enforcement officer, and there are restrictions on that. So I don't think you can just take that tool away from our law enforcement.
It's hard because you're opening. I have mixed feelings about this because you're opening the gate.
Yeah,
so once you say, okay, we can do this, then where's the line? We just keep pushing the goalpost farther and farther and farther. And that's, I think, the concern from people is, okay, we need to draw a hard line in the sand here and say, this is where it needs to stop.
I got to say, the text line always comes through. 314-241-9797. Here's the latest comment on the text line. The phone I have literally tracks my bowel movements, and people are worried about Flock, LOL. Thank you. Comment of the day from the 714. I appreciate that. Oh, that's good stuff. All right, we're going to get Jim Carafano on later. Perfect timing for that with some of the new economic sanctions that are out against Iran. Is it making a difference? I mentioned Eric Burlison. Trey Gowdy is going to join us this morning in the 8 o'clock hour. Of course, he has his own show on Fox on the weekends. He's got one of the most famous hairdos on the Fox News network. And last time I had Trey on, he and I were talking about Lindsey Graham, as I remember. So because he's from South Carolina, he served in the Congress there and worked with Graham. I wonder what his thoughts are on Darlene Graham. There's a video out this morning. I know people pile on because of her questionable debate performance the other day. But there is a clip out this morning where a reporter is starting to interview Darlene Graham, and her handler, you can hear her handler lean over to the reporter and say, "Nothing too difficult."
Oh.
And I'm afraid that is going to do more damage to her, the candidate, than anything she did or didn't say or know about, U.S.-China relations during the debate the other night. So we'll get into all that here. And we got Trey Gowdy on, and we can talk to him about it as well a little bit later. Now, I've gone a little long in this segment on a Friday morning, so I think what we'll do is get to our top stories at the top of the next segment. We'll get to our break and our national anthem.
Good morning to you. We look good at this hour. Quiet through North County, pretty much quiet throughout the area. Looking good on eastbound 70, 6440, and it's quiet on the Illinois side as well. So we are off to a good start. If something comes up, I will let you know. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, when we had to make a decision before we were moving into our house, the one we currently live in, about the flooring, obviously it's easier to get flooring done before you move the furniture in. But they deal with this all the time. So in my other house, we had new carpeting put in upstairs that included the bedrooms, and there we're already living there. It doesn't matter to Michael's. They've got great crews that are going to get in and get your furniture professionally moved out of the way while they install the carpet, get everything put back in place. It was a smooth operation in both cases. And when we needed to get the flooring in before the furniture arrived, they got it done quickly, they got it done right, and they got it done right on time. And we got the furniture moved in afterwards. The floors were already installed. It was perfect. You're going to have the same experience. 3 great locations, 2 in St. Charles County there in Old Town St. Peters and Darden Prairie, 1 in West St. Louis County off of Olive, or they will bring samples right to your house. Tell them Marc Cox sent you. Go to their website today to igotfloor.com.
The time now is 5:21, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. Our socials are just getting started. You still have time to jump in there, interact with everybody. Facebook, Rumble, X, and YouTube.
But we got to win the general election. That should be the goal, and everyone needs to be rowing in that direction. But instead, they're too busy doing these fights and trying to take out Democrats.
Yeah, what are they worried about there, huh? The Democrats are worried that the DSA people aren't rowing in the same direction as them because they've upset them in several primaries. The Dems have got a big problem on their hands with that group.
If Florida wasn't safe, how come even the lockdown governors and mayors were coming here to vacation and to party and to do all that? Pritzker, AOC, they were all down here, right?
Yeah, it's true. That is Ron DeSantis there. His voice sounds a little gravelly today. Maybe he's been yelling or something. I don't know. He says AOC and Pritzker came to Florida to party during COVID.
Tellerico, in another way, is generating excitement because, he's got new ideas. He actually talks about God, and a lot of these Republicans are mad that he's talking about God, which I don't get.
What happened to John Kasich? Did he suffer some sort of traumatic brain injury? That guy used to be a Republican, and now he's as bad as Adam Kinzinger. I just don't get it. Whoops. You know what? I'm not going to take the blame for this. Somebody had turned off the sound on my computer before I got here this morning. So here we go.
When it comes to sports and culture and that overlap, and when I can't explore that area, and I think a lot of readers are really starving for common sense in a lot of those areas, I just didn't feel like I could do what I was hired to do anymore.
Yeah, how about that, Kim? Kim and I, for years now, obviously as recovering journalists, have talked about the fact that media bias comes in many forms, and part of it is what they won't report on. Right? The institutional bias in a lot of these large media organizations is that they cover stories that reflect their worldview, and they won't cover anything that doesn't. Anything that counters their narrative, they just ignore, and they act like it's not happening. You see it every day in the mainstream media. What's pretty rare, though, is to see a journalist with the balls to walk away. That's Matt Calkins you were listening to there. For the last 11 years, he's been an award-winning sports columnist for the Seattle newspaper. And he went to a WNBA game in Seattle, and he found a protest outside where there were women supporting Sophie Cunningham. And he interviewed two of the girls, and he wrote a profile on them because both of them, as high schoolers, had lost competitive events in their sports to men. And he wrote the article, and he submitted it to his editors. And 6 days later, they got back to him and said, we're not running this. Because it went against the narrative that trans women are women. And they were not going to run it in a major Seattle newspaper. They would not run that opinion.
Kind of interesting because sometimes people just want something for people to click on, almost like rage bait. So I'm a little surprised that they didn't run it. Only for that reason. But I've certainly been in that position where I've asked to cover something or said, hey, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, or interviewing this person, and they didn't want me to do it. That happened that happened to KMOV and other stations I worked at.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll tell you that the point of journalism school, of studying to be a broadcast journalist or a newspaper reporter, either one, is and this is one thing I fought back against at Channel 4 too, when they would tell you when you do your story, you need to be advocating for someone. You need to be investigating something. That was the brand. And if it didn't fit that, they didn't always want to cover those stories. So listen to Matt Calkins, longtime sports, who's already been offered a job, by the way, with Clay Travis has already offered him a job, but he quit when they turned down this story. He quit. Listen.
Well, basically, I tried to write a column through the eyes of two student athletes who were kind of speaking out against biological males in girls/women's sports. And I submitted this column a couple Fridays ago to my editors, and this was kind of on the heels of a rally outside of Climate Pledge Arena where girls were supporting Sophie Cunningham and her stance on this issue. And basically 6 days went by, and they said, "Oh, we're looking at it. Let me give it to this editor. This editor is going to have a talk with the top 2 editors." And 6 days later, they decided it wasn't going to run.
And he quit.
It's interesting because I think you make a good point that when you would sit in those editorial meetings, they would say, okay, well, how will we balance the story? So you would always hear the whole story would be wrapped around one, as they call it, a central compelling character. And then usually at the end of the tag, you'd say, we reached out to the other side and we haven't heard back. So they would play both sides. You're right. I think where media gets really biased is the fact it's by omission. They for example, like the pro-life marches that they have here in St. Louis. I think when I emceed the one last year, I saw one outlet there. One. And it was probably a 20-second story versus something else like a BLM rally. If they had one here downtown, it'd be what we'd call a package, which would be a minute 30.
Yes.
And that is exactly the way that local news does it.
It exists everywhere, and the bias goes to the top. I don't know that there's any organization that's free of it these days. I don't. You see it for yourself, but this is a great example. Now, this guy will end up – he's very smart to have done this because, like I said, he's already gotten job offers, and he'll go to work and continue doing what he was always doing. But he's like, hey, I'm not generally political. I'd rather go cover the Seattle Mariners outfielder and who they're playing tomorrow. But this seemed like a good story to me, and we're covering the story anyway. And the editors said no, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And he walked away. Good for him. We're back with Kim on a Whim in just a minute.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
This morning, another big retailer reports earnings, BJ's Wholesale Club. Mark Tepper, CEO of Strategic Wealth Partners, says investors now see crude oil prices remaining elevated.
We've actually changed our investment positioning to assume $80+ oil for the foreseeable future now. And one of the things we've done is, when it comes to the stock selection, that we integrate into our portfolios, we own Union Pacific Railroad because what we're seeing happen right now is you are seeing less freight move via truck on the highways because the cost of diesel is so high, and more freight is now moving via railroad.
Also today, S&P Global reports on how the economy's service sector and manufacturing are holding up this month. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda. Invested in you.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Well, it's pretty quiet out there at this hour. Now, there's either it looks like maybe some road work or an incident. This is northbound 55, really close to Highway M. It looks like it's just a little bit north of there, kind of by Imperial, Maine. And they've got the right lane blocked. And it's causing just a little bit of a slowdown in that area. But other than that, we look fine, and it's quiet throughout the area. Now, listen, crews are going to close eastbound 6440. All lanes, they're going to completely shut it down at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and this will be between Jefferson and 6th Street. And they're going to be doing some bridge repairs. They've got sign work to do, drainage work, removing debris, all kinds of stuff. But it will be done well before the Savannah Bananas game tomorrow night at 7. And there'll be a detour posted. Again, eastbound 6440 will be completely shut down from Jefferson to 6th Street starting at 5 a.m. So they're going to do it 5 a.m. until 2:30 tomorrow. There's a detour in place. They'll essentially just take you southbound on Jefferson to eastbound 44. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, here's a deal for you. How about $3,400 in Carrier Cool Cash rebates if you need a new air conditioner or furnace in your house? I'm telling you, you can get up to that amount. They're doubling their Cool Cash right now, and that's pretty cool. I'll have to say, and it'll keep you pretty cool as well because I was able to take advantage of some of those rebates and tax credits when I got my system 2 years ago. And, you know, it's something you've got to buy anyway at some point. If you're a homeowner, why would you not take advantage of this? Now, with my friends at Air Comfort, you're getting the great service. You're getting go read the great Google reviews, all the 5-star Google reviews from Corey Malone and his great employees over there. I'm a member of their preferred partner plan, not because I'm anybody special. You can do the same thing. And then they come and check your system twice a year to make sure it's working. In fact, I think they're coming back to my house Monday. And they make sure everything is working. They check the filter. They check everything so that when the cooler weather gets here, I'm ready for that as well. You just can't go wrong with the Air Comfort. I'm telling you, you need to check them out. You can do that online. You can also order your service directly online, and I think that's great because you know, everybody's busy. Everybody's got stuff going on. And at Air Comfort Service, they are ready to get you taken care of in a big hurry. 314-513-0091. Tell them Mark sent you or go to aircomfortservice.com.
How would you like your tax dollars being used to help try to reelect a candidate who you can't stand? All his or her policies you think are absolutely terrible. You have no choice, and your tax dollars are being used to help try to get that person reelected. Does that not seem absolutely asinine to you?
It does, that they're using public funds for it, to be quite honest with you.
I didn't know until yesterday that in several cities across the country, that is completely legal. Hit it, Ethan.
Your donation to our campaign is more critical right now than ever before. Let me explain. Thanks to LA's Supermatch program, every qualified donation from Los Angeles residents is matched 6-1 by the city.
6-1. So if you donate $20 to Karen Bass's campaign as a citizen of LA, they'll give you 120?
That's how it works. And this is again, if this were where you were living, this would be your tax dollars. So it's not like you can say, actually, you know what? I don't support Karen Bass, so therefore I wouldn't like my money to be used as part of this match program. Doesn't work like that. And it's not like Los Angeles is the only city where this is going on. It's also happening in Berkeley and Evanston, Illinois.
All big liberal cities. Evanston is where Northwestern University is, just north of Chicago. Very affluent suburb of Chicago. And crazy liberal.
Okay, so this, by the way, this whole matching program in the city of Los Angeles is not new. This was set in motion back in 1990, but then they increased it. They expanded it to the 6-1 match in 2019. But what's so ironic to me about this whole thing is one of the reasons why they say that this is necessary is because they want to make the local residents feel like they can have an impact. They say they want to amplify the small contributions from residents, those donors, instead of the reliance on the large donors. Now, what do the Democrats happen to do when it comes to, like, for example, Amendment 3? A lot of those are large donations from out-of-state groups, out-of-state people who have nothing to do with Missouri, aside from the fact that they have a reason to want, in this case, abortion to remain legalized.
Yeah,
it's so funny to me that that's one of the reasons that they want to do this.
I've heard of this before, and obviously, as you stated, the idea is to give the average Joe an opportunity to do some basic fundraising, and then the city would throw money on top of that. Usually, it's a match. Like if somebody donates $20, then this fund would give you $20 for your campaign. Of course, you have to expect places like LA to supersize it. Right, to make it 6 times, but the irony of that is, it's if I'm the taxpayer living in L.A., it's my money. Did they? Mike, here's my question, and this would be the only way I would even ever think that there was anything legitimate to this. Did this go on the ballot, or was this something the liberal city council decided on?
That's what I wondered. Like back in 1990 when this whole thing was set in motion or then expanded in 2019,
right.
Did anybody get a vote on this?
It seems to me like a huge waste of taxpayer money. You either, to me, it's no different than a community having to subsidize a business to come in and work. Like I've never been a big fan of TIF financing, tax increment financing, because it allows the developer to keep part of the tax revenue that would have gone back to the community out of any development. In my opinion, if it's economically viable, somebody will build it. And if it's not, they won't. And if you have to give taxpayer money to somebody to lure them in to do a business somewhere, that's bad economic policy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Chesterfield Valley is littered with TIFs. I mean, half the businesses there have been given tax increment financing, and it's been done in a lot of places around the area. And I think there's some limits on it now. But how's this any different?
This is like those of us who are pro-life not wanting our tax money to be spent on Planned Parenthood. Why would we as pro-lifers want to be giving to an organization that is advocating, and its pretty much entire business model is on murdering children, murdering babies? So why should I have to support somebody, some candidate, not of my choosing? Who's like think about this. Like think if there was like a Democratic socialist like Zohran Mamdani, and I don't know if this thing is going on in New York City. I didn't see that anywhere. But let's just, for argument's sake, say that it was. That would mean that you moved to New York City because your family goes there or your job moves there. Maybe that wasn't your first choice, but you go there for whatever reason.
Right.
And then your money is now going for a Democratic socialist candidate who wants to tax you up the wazoo and do all these terrible things that would hurt you and your family.
And their argument will be, but Kim, it's such a small percentage of our budget, it really doesn't matter.
I don't want a single cent of my tax money going for something like that. And that's where it really comes down to principle. It's not about the actual dollar amount, it's about principle.
So it makes me wonder if Karen Bass is facing a little more trouble than we think from the socialist who's running against her
Rahman.
in this runoff.
Yeah.
Because for her to feel like she needs to go out and keep soliciting those donations, she must feel like that's going to be a tough race for her. She's seen these DSA candidates elsewhere win.
I guess. When I Googled it, it said when it comes to these 6-1 match programs, it says candidates typically must meet specific threshold requirements, such as collecting a minimum number of small local contributions and agreeing to strict overall spending limits before qualifying for public matching funds. It also says that there are limits placed on the maximum individual contribution amount eligible for the match. So, for example, it's saying it's $257 per contributor in Los Angeles. Very random number. So, still, it's wild to me when there's just so much of our tax money that's spent in a way that we would not agree with and that it just flies under the radar, and if no one sheds light on it, we just kind of go about our day not realizing how much money is being wasted or I believe being misused.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They do this in Illinois, not just in Evanston. They have fair election funds all over the place in Illinois.
It says it requires only $2 per resident per year to function, to create this pool of money, I guess, where they can use to match it. Yeah. And it says, this is the Illinois one, candidates who opt in cannot accept contributions over $500 from a single donor. But if they're matching it 6-1 and someone's donating, $499? That's a lot of money. They're really going to match that? Or not match, you 6-1 match it.
I think in a lot of these cases, too, because the presidential candidates to some extent can do this, or they can reject it because if they agree to it, it limits the amount of money they can raise if they agree to it. So nobody ever agrees to it anymore because they're going to get so many donations from these PACs and from outside money, I should say, or donations to PACs that support them with outside money. This is why the Democrats hate Citizens United decisions so much, because they feel like it lets too much money into politics. And they say that, and then they spend, what did I tell you, $16 million on Alexander Vindman in Florida, and he loses to a DSA candidate who raised less than $1 million. So you can't really argue. It's hard to argue with that, with what happened down there. I don't know. That's crazy. Good luck, Karen Bass. You've almost developed your socialist utopia in L.A., it sounds like. Just nuts. All right, coming up here in just a couple minutes, I got to do something really fun yesterday. I got to go out and I wouldn't say cover. I got to go out and watch the BMW Championship out at Belle Reve, and I'll talk about that when we come back.
We've got a jam on northbound 55. It's because the right lane blocked. It's reported as an accident, but it looks to me like it may be road work. It's just so dark, it's difficult to tell. But it's an incident on northbound 55, and it's just north of Highway M. So they've got the right lane blocked, and if you're traveling in that area, it's just before Imperial, Maine. It's caused a delay, maybe back to Highway M, close to it. But that's it for this hour. Other than that, we are quiet throughout the area, both the Missouri and Illinois sides both. So not a bad start unless you're a 55 driver that's coming in from down south. This report brought to you by I3 Broadband. Summer celebrations are here, and i3 Broadband keeps you connected. Head over to i3broadband.com/radio today or call 866-806-5485 to upgrade today, because life runs better on fiber, and i3 Broadband is here for you. Sue Thomas with traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Home Shield Foundation repairs can take care of whatever's going on the outside of your home when it comes to the concrete that's poured around your house. I mean, even if you've got a crawl space or you live on a slab, you might need to talk to Matt Hayes at some point. He sent me some video one time. Somebody had to have a plumbing issue addressed, and they lived in a slab home, right? And when they opened up the concrete to get to the plumbing, they realized erosion had left a huge void under the floor, and at some point it might have caused that floor to collapse, which would have been a disaster. These are the kinds of things they can address at Home Shield Foundation Repairs. They can do that. They can provide piering if your house is moving in the clay soils that we build on around here in the greater St. Louis area. In addition to that, they do waterproofing. So you hear a lot of ads for waterproofing. A lot of these companies are big conglomerates these days who want to sell you a waterproofing package. Matt's promise is he'll come in and he'll address the problem and not try to sell you things you don't need. 314-271-9900. He's offering 2 years same as cash financing right now. Go online to homeshieldfoundationrepairs.com.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Yes, indeed. All right, welcome back. Kevin and I are in the break here. We're just discussing this Meghan Markle, Prince Harry thing that they're moving back to England. Did you see that?
Yeah, we don't know why though, right?
No, nobody knows why, but always remember that the Heritage Foundation sued the Department of Homeland Security to crack down on the Duke of Sussex immigration file because he lied on his immigration papers, where it asks if you were ever had substance abuse. And, of course, he dabbled in his own book. He admitted dabbling in cocaine, cannabis, and psychedelic mushrooms. And their argument is that should have been considered the fact that he lied on his immigration papers. Now, some people may claim that's not a big deal.
It's probably not.
But it's still, it's never been addressed. It's stalled in court right now. And I wonder if maybe that was coming close to some sort of conclusion, because Lord knows that's going to be an awkward get together when they move back over there. Are they going to be allowed to live in state housing again?
Well, no, I don't think so. Didn't they cut off all ties?
I thought they did. But I almost can't believe they're going to move them back over there and not move them into one of those empty castles they've got.
And here's the other thing. Would Harry and Meghan even want to live in that? I feel like they're very much the couple They want to do their own thing, and they don't want to adhere to. I mean, that would be. It sounds. I think when people watch the royal wedding, they think, "Oh my!" Girls, at least, are thinking, "Oh my gosh, that would be amazing!" And you get to have all these nice dresses and all these things, and you realize what their schedule's like and how little freedom they have, and you come to the realization that would actually suck.
You think they're going to pass up a castle?
Yeah, I know. No. I think that they would because they have enough money to be able to afford a nice home. I think they would trade the castle living for a nice home, a decent home that allows them to do their own thing.
The New York Post is one of several outlets that have covered this, and I could actually care less about the whole thing, but I did think it was interesting. It claims that they, among other things, met with Gavin Newsom to discuss getting Meghan Markle appointed to Kamala Harris's empty Senate seat when she when she became vice president. Now, her camp denies that, but there's reporting on that, and that they met with Biden in the Oval Office, or tried to, for some reason. So I could, anyway, but who cares? I quit caring about him in about 1776.
Yeah, but I bet you that people would actually vote for her. Seriously.
Meghan Markle?
Yes, because she has a name, and people like her. I mean, there's plenty of people who don't like her, but enough people in Los Angeles, I bet, would like her.
Well, regardless, let me tell you what I did yesterday. It was a lot of fun. So I think Reardon must have been out there too, because he was off air yesterday. Sue Thomas probably knows the answer to that. I got to go out to the BMW championship yesterday. I got a media credential to go out there just to cover it. And, man, I don't know. I said yesterday, I pointed out the fact that professional golf events, this place was packed. So Thursday is the first round of the 4 rounds. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then it culminates Sunday with whoever's in the lead. There's over $20 million at stake in this purse. And even yesterday, like, we got to the 15th hole, and at that point, Scotty Scheffler was on about number 12, I think. And we waited until his group came through, and there was a mass of people following Scotty Scheffler, who's like the number 1 golfer in the world. So we got to watch him on his approach to 15. We got to watch him tee off at 16.
I heard he wasn't feeling well and did not have a good game yesterday.
He did not have a good game. He's near the bottom of the pack right now, but he's been at the bottom of the pack before and come roaring back. So we'll see. The weather was perfect yesterday. There's a little bit of a breeze. But I only bring that up to say that, as I pointed out, it's a spectacle, and it's not nearly as enjoyable to me to watch to watch it in person as it is to watch it on TV. It's just easier because they can flip to different cameras, and you see them tee off. You see where the ball lands. Like if we were seated at the on the green at 16 or at 15, I should say. And, when they hit from way down there, unless it's the approach shot to the green, you don't see where the ball lands. You just see them walking towards you. So if you want to see all of it, you'd have to be down at the tee box, watch them hit, and then walk at a rapid pace up the course to get to see the second shot, and then try to get up to the green before they hit the button. Anyway, it was fun to be out there just to experience it, the atmosphere. Lots of sunburnt people yesterday who were walking around. You could grab a cold beer. They had plenty of food. They had food trucks out there. I got to tell you, the PGA does this right, man. It's just a smooth operation. It was fantastic to watch how they do this. And they've transformed Belle Reve. It doesn't look anything like it normally looks with all the grandstands and everything they've got built.
I heard they built a cafe like right in the middle of it.
The shirts, the merch. There were people going out there just to buy merch, and I walked in. The first shirt I came across was a golf shirt like this. It was $119. I didn't pay that for this one. I went to the cheaper end of the building, but they have Lululemon BMW golf shirts out there.
Oh my god!
And they had a Lululemon pullover that said BMW on it. It was $229 or something like that. I mean,
not worth it.
People are spending a ton of money to have something that says BMW on it. as Mark wears his BMW shirt today. So anyway, I got suckered in on that one for sure. If you get to go out there, you're gonna have a great time. I'll tell you that. They got the parking thing wasn't bad. They've got it figured out with the shuttles. We'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers chartered the flight. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and 2 of its employees are among the 8 people killed when a small plane crashed in western Alaska. It had taken off from Anchorage.
Went down near Cape Newinham Long-Range Radar Site Airport, about 450 miles west of Anchorage. The site is part of a network of remote radar stations monitoring aircraft in and around Alaska's airspace. The NTSB is investigating.
That's Fox's Ted Lindner. A long deployment finally ending for 5,000 sailors and Marines on the USS Abraham Lincoln, finally heading home after more than 270 days at sea, and much publicized reports of mental strain on the crew and worsening conditions on the ship and other aircraft carrier replacing the Lincoln, as President Trump ratchets up financial pressure on Iran with what he calls an economic D-Day. As nuclear and Strait of Hormuz talks remain stalled, the president went on WABC radio again, insisting he had to take action on Iran, telling his ex-lawyer Michael Cohen's show,
They were exactly 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon, and that's why I had to do it, because you cannot let them have that kind of a weapon.
A New York woman is behind bars. Jessica Bowie is accused of converting to Islam and then plotting an ISIS-inspired terror attack. Fox's Gernal Scott reports the target was the state capitol in Albany.
U.S. Attorney John Sarcone said Bowie is charged with providing material support to ISIS.
This defendant was radicalized online and spread messages of hate and violence.
FBI Special Agent in charge in Albany, Craig Tremoroli, quoted Bowie's intent to take down the building
and kill the senators while they are meeting. I want them to lose a lot of important documents as well.
There's damage to clean up after storms hit the mid-Atlantic and East Coast. One person killed in Virginia in a lightning strike. A tornado caused destruction in Dover, Delaware. Another twister did some damage on New York's Long Island, and flooding in New Jersey led the drivers needing water rescues. America's listening to Fox News.
In a recent survey of 123,000 wireless customers, Pure Talk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. What else do you need to know? Switch to Pure Talk today and get any plan, including their top shelf unlimited data plan for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. No contract, no commitment. Dial pound 250, say micro, and let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil. One simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
Good morning. I'm Kim St. for 97.1 FM Talk. Our time is 6:03, starting out the morning at 66 degrees. Here's what's making headlines on this Friday, August 21st. St. Charles County Police say they'll stop using flock cameras after a civilian employee was caught misusing the system. The police chief says the employee admitted to using the system for an inappropriate non-law enforcement purpose after a new audit tool flagged the searches. The employee was put on unpaid leave before resigning. Now, all 28 flock cameras St. Charles County Police were using have been covered with bags. Oakville in South St. Louis County is now at the center of a murder-suicide investigation. Police were called to a home in the 3000 block of Cambridge View Court around 4:30 Thursday afternoon for a welfare check. Police believe a man shot a woman and then killed himself. At this point, no other information has been released. One of 3 members St. Louis County Executive Sam Page appointed to the Regional Tourism Board Thursday turns out is its former leader who was pushed out by the same board 2 years ago. The Post-Dispatch reports former Explore St. Louis president Kitty Ratcliffe has been tapped to fill one of the 3 spots on the board. Ratcliffe retired 10 months before her contract was up amid criticism from some board members about going more than $40 million over budget on the convention center expansion. In sports, Cardinals have another series win under their belt after beating the Reds 10-9 yesterday. The Cards' long road trip continues, playing the Phillies tonight at 5:40. City SC faces Houston Dynamo at home tomorrow. That kickoff for that match 7:30. Day 2 of the BMW Championship going on today at Belle Reef Country Club. Rory McIlroy tied for first right now. That'll continue tomorrow, and then it'll wrap up on Sunday. 66 degrees now on this Friday morning, 6:05. I'm Kim St. for 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis conservative.
Well, thank you for letting me know on the text line. Northbound 55, this is north of Highway M. We've got flashing lights on the scene. Well, now that the sun is up and somebody drove by to tell me what's up, it's a wrecker that's righting a tractor trailer that had overturned. So they've got the right lane and the right shoulder blocked. And if you're traveling in that area, you will encounter a delay. It's not the end of the world kind of delay, but it's a brief one. And then things open up and look fine into downtown. Now, other than that, we really have been quiet this morning, and that's Missouri and Illinois sides both. 44 looks good, eastbound 70, 64, 40, and quiet on the Illinois side despite all the road work. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We're starting out this Friday morning, 66 degrees. It is a really, really nice morning. 6:07 right now. Hey, you can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. Listen to the show from anywhere, any time of the day on our free Odyssey app.
All right, good morning to you. Welcome in the 21st day of the month here, and it is a Friday. Hopefully you've got some opportunity to get out and enjoy it today. It looks like a gorgeous day. I don't know, Kim, twist me. I may have to twist my arm, but I may have to go see Dr. Green again.
Yeah.
I can't golf right now, but I can go watch golf, which is the next best thing.
I'm just not into golf. It doesn't sound fun to me.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else where you're watching somebody who is at the peak of their performance career, right? It's like watching, a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James or somebody like that who is the best of the best. It's like going to see Caitlin Clark. If she's in town, you might want to go get a ticket to it, even if you don't go watch the WNBA, because, I got to watch Scotty Scheffler yesterday. Woodland, I think, was one of the guys that was golfing. I missed McIlroy and some of the others who were out there earlier in the day, but to have played the game as poorly as I do, and to watch these guys from 180 or 200 yards away put the ball within 3 or 4 feet of the pin, it's just mind-boggling to me. I don't know how they do it. I've never been able to do it, and it's just a joy to watch, even when they tee off. I mean, some of these guys are hitting the ball 330, 340 yards with their tee shot. I mean, on a 450-yard par 4, it's no wonder they're getting birdies and, the occasional eagle.
I don't know what a birdie or an eagle are.
The ball.
I just
That's
know
below
I know
par.
it's a thing. I've heard the term.
Let's say it's a par 4
okay,
and you get a 3.
So
yeah,
it's it's a birdie?
It's a birdie.
So anything under par is a birdie.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm shooting birds, it's with a shotgun. That's about how that goes.
Ba-dum-bum-tsh.
So the BMW Championship's going on. Honestly, I went out there there were lots of people out there yesterday. I went in off 141 and Conway Road because I had media parking, which is a little bit closer to the event. But even then, traffic wasn't bad. Now it'll probably get a little heavier. Maybe today, Saturday, Sunday, since you're getting close. I mean, I'm sure it's a sellout on Saturday and Sunday.
I heard it was.
But they're parking people out in St. Charles at the Family Arena and bringing them in on big luxury buses. It's really a smooth system they've got worked out. So hopefully people are doing that. I've chased Paco off now talking about sports off the top. But what a great day. What a great weather weekend we have presented to the PGA here in town.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You were saying whenever we have these golf events, it seems to be nice weather.
And whenever it's the Fair and Air show out in Chesterfield, it's 110 degrees. One of my police friends pointed that out to me because he often works those events. He's like, I don't know what it is, man. When these golf tournaments come to town, we do it right here in St. Louis. The timing is good. Middle of August. Who knew it was going to be 60 degrees on August 21st? Lots to get to here for you. We're going to get to St. Louis Morning Brief. A couple of big stories. The mayor is at odds suddenly with her police chief again. I got some thoughts on that. We'll cover that for you. The flock cameras are making headlines around the country, to be honest, but also locally now, where St. Charles County has apparently fired somebody over abuse of the system, and they put a ban on at least one of the companies that's providing that flock coverage. And I think that's a little controversial. We'll chat about that. A little later, we're going to have Joe Brazel on, the county councilman out in St. Charles, to talk about that. We've got Congressman Eric Burlison on at 7:35. He's going to talk about flock cameras, maybe, and data centers. So we'll find out what he thinks about the whole thing. So plenty to get to. Right now, Ethan, let's go ahead and get to those top stories, please.
It's easier to get an AR-15 in the United States than it is to get an abortion.
Did you know that, Kim? that you have to apparently go through the FBI nationally and get a background check to get an abortion. Did you know that?
Oh,
I thought you
yeah,
could
I
just
did.
walk in and they were happy to take your money.
I think they are.
I wish gun stores were like that, but it's not. And we have a constitutional right. I'm sorry, a constitutional right to buy guns, and it's still very difficult. And you do not have a constitutional right to murder your child.
And let me be clear, ICE needs to be abolished because the organization is completely corrupt. It's staffed by thugs. And that's why I was the first in this race to say that they need to be prosecuted as well.
How about that? Seth Moulton, he's running for office, big Democrat. He wants to abolish the people who are taking criminals off the streets and finding missing children. And then he wants to prosecute any of them who arrested any illegals that Seth Moulton didn't like. These people are dangerous.
Under the crooked Joe Biden administration, the spirit of innovation that built America was under serious attack like never before.
Yeah, there you have it. That's the president talking yesterday about Biden's economy and how it's still killing us with his 20% inflation that's never gone away. So prices are higher, and they're blaming Donald Trump for it. Imagine that. Other than gas prices, a lot of that is squarely on the shoulders of demented Joe Biden.
Nothing too difficult here. All right. Beautiful. So yesterday during the debate, Representative...
Did you hear that? Listen right at the beginning of this. Pot that music down for us, Ethan, so people can hear. Listen carefully right here.
Nothing too difficult here.
Nothing too difficult here. This is a handler for Darlene Graham, who's running for Lindsey Graham's seat in the United States Senate from South Carolina. And one of her staff members said to the reporter before they started the interview, nothing too difficult here. This bothers me for a whole lot of reasons, not the least of which is they tripped her up the other night in the Greta Van Susteren, asked her about her position on Taiwan and China, and she had no idea what the hell Greta Van Susteren was talking about. And yet she wants to be one of the 2 United States senators from South Carolina. I'm all for feeling good and patting ourselves on the back that we nominated Lindsey Graham's sister to the Senate here to fill in for him for a few months. That's a nice tribute to him. She can't do much damage in 6 months, but in 6 years, her lack of knowledge, that basically means she'd be the figurehead and somebody else would be running the administration. It's another Biden situation, in my opinion.
Well, and here's the thing. So I feel like her answer in the debate the other day when she said, look, I'll be honest, I'm not a polished politician. I don't really know much about foreign policy. I feel like she's trying to play the card of, I'm not some, career politician and trying to be relatable, but that is not the kind of relatability that you want. The other thing that kind of bothers me is that it looks like, at least Fox News is reporting, that President Trump is kind of throwing his support behind her.
He was already endorsed her.
That's a mistake. I do worry, I'll be honest, that Trump is doing that because A, she's got the Graham last name, so he's doing it because he thinks that that's the right move because she's related to Lindsey Graham, and that maybe he feels like she doesn't know anything, so he will be able to control might be a harsh word, but have more say she's more willing to kind of do what Trump wants. I don't know. I do have a little bit of a concern of that. I don't like that Trump has just automatically thrown his support behind her. And if she has enough of these flops, it's not going to look good for Trump.
I agree. I was a little disappointed when I saw that the president's going there to campaign for her today against Ralph Norman, who truly is a conservative and has been in Congress for a while. I would not be surprised to see an upset in this race. However, saying that, I don't know what the internal polling is showing, and I'm not sure the president would go there and stake his reputation on it. This primary, I think, is the 28th, so it's coming up at the end of next week, maybe next Thursday or something, when they're having their primary. It's before the end of April or August, before the end of August. I don't know. We'll see. I was a little surprised. What I did find out earlier is guess where J.D. Vance is going today? Back to our hometown.
Really?
He is going to go back today and visit what used to be called Armco Steel and is now called AK Steel. I think it's still AK. It's the steel mill my father worked for 37 years, and J.D. Vance's grandfather worked there for 40 years. My dad worked for him at one point. I remember him coming home and cussing about Vance. He didn't like him very much. And he's going back there today to Ohio to I guess he's going to visit the plant and walk through it and talk about things like with Granite City Steel across the river here, that a lot of these plants would not be in operation today if not for the support and the tariffs put in place by President Trump, who recognized the strategic importance of having a strong steel industry in this country. When Donald Trump was president the first time, we realized to our horror that if we had to start building warships again, we didn't have an operational plant in the United States, or maybe more than one, that could make the kind of steel you need in heavy steel-plated warships. How are we outsourcing that stuff to the rest of the world? Explain that to me. So I hope that's one of the points Vance makes when he visits AK Steel there in Middletown, Ohio today. We'll find out more about it. When we come back, we'll get to the St. Louis Morning Brief.
On the roads this morning, it's really one incident that's causing a delay, and it's northbound 55 approaching Imperial, Maine. We had a tractor trailer go off the road yesterday, and it looks to me like they are just getting to right it right now and then get it gone. So there's a wrecker on the scene, right lane, right shoulder blocked. I put it up at Susan6768 on X if you'd like to see it. And then they will, of course, open everything. So it's just causing a brief delay for northbound 55 drivers. Now, other than that, we look good. And that's really throughout the entire area. Quiet on the Illinois side as well. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, you heard me talk a bit earlier about what Rhino Shield does, about what Rhino Shield does when it comes to rain on your house. Today we're going to get sunshine. What's it do there? Well, Rhino Shield rejects 90% of the sun's rays. What does that mean, Mark? Well, it's the number one thing that harms and fades regular paint. It's one reason you have to repaint every few years, because the weather wears it down and the sun's rays beat down on it. Rhino Shield doesn't have those issues. It's lab tested. It's waterproof. It protects whatever you put it on. And I'm just telling you, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. It can make a huge difference with the outside maintenance of your house. You have Darren come over. He'll show you the before and after. He'll show you how this product just pops, and then it doesn't fade after a couple of years. It maintains that whatever beautiful color you've picked out, and it helps you keep that architectural look that you love so much. I was a satisfied customer for 17 and a half years, and I still had plenty to go on my 25-year warranty. Get your look at this beautifully durable Rhino Shield today. Just call them, 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
The time now is 6:22, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. It looks like St. Charles County has put a hold on flock cameras. I don't know, maybe in the future they just won't, they'll get the flock out of there. We'll see. Kim and Mark will have the details in the St. Louis Morning Brief.
Nice, Ethan.
Well done. Well played.
You should applaud yourself for that one.
Yeah.
Nah, I can't.
All right, just like he said, St. Charles County police have decided to scrap the flock cameras. There's 28 of them that county police there were using, and there's now black bags over them. So if you're driving around in that area and you see something like that, that's what's going on. Now, here's what happened leading up to this. Starting January of this year, January 1st, there was some new audit tool that was put in the system for flock where it would automatically scan for any questionable searches. And that was what drew the chief's attention to the abnormal pattern of searches for one of these civilian employees. So the chief ordered an internal investigation, and then the employee ended up admitting to, I used the system for what was described as personal non-law enforcement purposes.
Tracking an ex-boyfriend or a boyfriend.
Well, you don't know, but maybe. So the person was put on unpaid leave and ended up resigning. But it is interesting to me that the department decided to just scrap them all together, because there have been police officers who have been arrested in other parts of the country, and I don't know what happened with the flock system there, but it surprises me that the police department decided, all right, because of this, we're just going to be done with it.
I don't know. The audit worked, as you pointed out. I think that's important to say. Remember when we had former St. Louis County Police Chief Tim Fitch on a couple of weeks ago?
Yep.
And he talked about the fact that they had these same problems when the Regis system was put in place and you could start running plates. And what did he call the one they called it? Data plate or something like that?
I can't remember.
Where it wasn't unusual when it was being abused that if an officer saw an attractive woman in a car, he'd run her plates and get her personal information. And that's an abuse of the system, and they had to put guidelines in place to stop that. I think that's just what's required here. And, I credit to Chief Frizz for reacting so quickly to it.
Yeah. The
audit system worked. They caught the abuse, and because of some of the other questions about flock, they've shut it down. But importantly, as I heard him explain, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stop using license plate readers altogether. Flock is a brand like Band-Aid. There are other companies that make these systems, and maybe the security protocols are a little different. I don't know.
Man,
we'll find out.
Band-Aid, not to change the subject, but Band-Aid and Kleenex have done it right, because I don't say, hey, I need a tissue. I'm like, I need a Kleenex.
I know.
I need a Band-Aid, but you forget that that's actually the brand.
It's
like
brand
the
name.
flock cameras have become it's kind of on that same path of like, this is the camera, it's flock.
But it it makes for some good puns too, as Ethan proved there a minute
Yes,
ago.
it does.
So you can have a little bit of fun with it, that's for sure. All right, so I saw this story where the St. Louis mayor is questioning who approved the federal agent surge that's going on in St. Louis right now. The Post-Dispatch headline leads to believe that it's part of the latest tension that she's having with police. She wants to know why she wasn't informed or allowed to have some input before the St. Louis Police Board or the St. Louis Police Department agreed to work with federal authorities for this surge. Well, my question to the mayor might be, if it reduces crime, what's your issue with it? Well, I'll tell you exactly what her issue with it is here. This is what Kara Spencer said about it. And I'm doing air quotes here for those of you that can't see me on radio, if you're not watching on the Window World webcam this morning. The community has a lot of concern about federal partnerships. And the community needs to know who's making these decisions.
Is the community the illegals who are worried that somehow ICE is going to be part of this and pick them up?
The community is the blue hair nose ring mafia who wants to abolish ICE.
Mm-hmm.
So who she's patronizing here would be the lefties, her lefty supporters in the DSA, who don't want any police protection. They'd like to defund the St. Louis police. And you know what? Kudos to Chief Tracy. Now that he's had his hands unbound by having to report directly to the mayor, and the police department is state controlled, he can tell the truth. And as a couple of people told me when he first got hired, he's a cop's cop. and what he wants to do is stop crime. So kudos to the chief for kind of taking the bull by the horns here.
But boy, their relationship is getting pretty contentious.
Going to be a little testy, which it needs to be, because I think, defund the police given the opportunity.
So the other day I was talking about how Walmart's drone delivery service is looking to potentially start doing that in St. Charles City, and I want to say it was Maplewood. Well, now Kirkwood is the latest suburb to be considering this. So officials from that drone company that partners with Walmart had asked Kirkwood's Planning and Zoning Commission on Wednesday for permission to begin construction of this new drone charging and launch station at the Kirkwood Walmart. And it says that this station would allow the company to charge up to 6 drones and keep them ready for deliveries within 4 miles of the store.
Didn't one drop into a pool the other day somewhere?
in Texas. Well, no, hold on. That wasn't Walmart. Just to clarify, it was Amazon.
It was an Amazon drone delivery.
How weird to think that we're going to live in a world probably within the next couple of years where it will be pretty regular just to look up and you see one of these drones flying over your house with a box, and then it just drops it in your neighbor's front yard.
And it won't be unusual to see an attorney following the drones to wait till one of them drops onto a car so they can sue the hell out of Amazon or Walmart, whoever came up with this cockamamie idea.
The drones will probably drop them gentler than some of these people who just chuck the package and then leave.
Maybe. But it sure is convenient to order something and get it a few hours later, I got to tell you. All right, coming up, we'll get you a check of business. We got In Other News at 6:45.
Good morning. Pretty quiet on the start to this Friday commute, with one exception on northbound 55 approaching Imperial, Maine. They've got the right lane blocked. Crews had to right a tractor trailer that yesterday kind of tipped over and went off the roadway. So there's a brief delay in that area, and then things open up and look fine. Big construction note for you for the weekend. Crews are going to close all lanes of eastbound 6440 from Jefferson to 6th Street. Now, that's going to start tomorrow from 5 a.m. and run till 2:30. They have a bunch of work to do there. And there's a Savannah Bananas game at 7 tomorrow. They'll have it well done by then. So the road will be open. But there's a detour. They're going to send you south on Jefferson to eastbound 44. Again, that does not start until tomorrow at 5 a.m. This report brought to you by McKelvey Homes. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
How many projects at your home have you put off because you just don't really know where to start? You know you want to change, but you don't know what you want it to look like. Or maybe the financing's not in place, that's where you need to reach out to my friends at Lakeside Renovation and Design. This is a company that has a really beautiful showroom that you can go visit in the Chesterfield Valley. Been there myself. But they've been here in the St. Louis area helping families for close to 30 years, veteran founded, family owned, as I mentioned, with an A+ rating from the BBB, and I can see why. This is just a solid company that can help you with pretty much anything you're looking to do at your home. So Lakeside's crews, by the way, the entire team over there is in-house, which I love. They're not outsourcing to some third party, so they personally know every single person who's working inside your home. That is key. But they could help you with the kitchen. Maybe you want more storage space, or the layout's just not great, poor lighting, all kinds of reasons. A new bathroom so you can have the popular freestanding tub or the heated floors. That's very popular, they told me. They do siding, they do roofing, they have Infinity from Marvin windows. By the way, those are 8 times stronger than vinyl, and that's the kind of material, the product that Lakeside has. They care about making sure that your investment is worth it. Any question you have, reach out to the team at Lakeside Renovation and Design. You can also go to lakesiderd.com and actually chat directly with Candace. It's not some bot. It is Candace who will answer you. She's awesome. Any question you have, Lakeside Renovation and Design would be happy to help. Again, that's lakesiderd.com.
If you missed this story earlier and you're just now tuning in, I had talked about this Seattle Times sports columnist who quit this week. Just quit, submitted his resignation because he wrote an article on a couple of girls who had shown up at a pro-Sophie Cunningham protest outside of the arena there in Seattle. By the way, Kim, when I played his soundbite earlier, did you hear what they called the arena in Seattle?
Yeah, but I don't remember what it was.
Climate Pledge Arena is the name of the politically correct, stupid name of the arena in Seattle. That's how far left they are up there. So the Seattle newspaper, this guy writes this article. I printed it off this morning. This is the title of the article, and the newspaper refused to run it because it didn't want to give any credibility to people who follow science. Here's the headline. Agreeing with Sophie Cunningham's stance doesn't make you transphobic. This was the article by Matt Calkin, and here's how he started it. Some people saw bigotry. I saw bravery. I saw a teenage girl speaking up on an issue that so many adults shy away from. He's talking about 16-year-old Annalee Wilson, who stood at a rally outside Climate Pledge Arena wearing an XXXY athletic shirt while holding a sign reading, "Thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls." There were no slurs hurled, No malice detected. It was just this girl demonstrating what some have trouble accepting, that agreeing with Cunningham's position does not make you transphobic. Wilson said, I don't hate trans people. I have nothing against them. I just think girls should have their own sports. And the Seattle Times newspaper, I don't know if it's the Seattle Times, whatever it was, editors held this story for 6 days debating and then decided not to run it because they didn't want to hack off the liberal community in Seattle.
It's crazy. Good for him for being willing to quit.
He's already been offered another job.
Oh, I'm
By
sure.
the way, Matt Calkins will pop up soon on some other national sports platform, I'm sure. He was up there for 11 years, just so you know. All right, let's get to Nicole, please. Good morning, Nicole. How are you?
Oh, I'm hungry this morning.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Always. Literally, it's a mindset, but good.
But
it's
you
Friday.
know, as I play my tiny violin for you here, you do have access to food there at some point, right? Don't they still bring you food every day?
It doesn't get delivered for like another 20 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
I know,
Nicole, thoughts and prayers with you this morning as you get through these next 20 minutes.
Through this difficult time in my life, yes.
Yeah.
Will you tell us your story of survival on Monday?
Yes, I will.
Write a book about. Maybe you might write a memoir.
I wonder who will play me in the biopic.
There you go. That's great. I love it. All right. What's going on out there in the business world?
All right, here we go. Futures are moderately higher. Thursday, the Dow lost 703. The Nasdaq dropped 263. The S&P 500 down 66. Walmart said it is using the $2.9 billion in tariff refunds to lower prices as consumers experience affordability issues due to higher inflation. The retailer also reported that its operating income in the second quarter rose nearly 30% compared to the same time last year. The average long-term U.S. mortgage rate eased for the second week in a row, but remains elevated compared to this time last year. Freddie Mac reports that the benchmark 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rate fell to 6.65% from 6.67% last week. 1 year ago, the average rate was 6.58%. Shares of Pop Mart fell over 4% this morning after the Labubu maker reported first-half results that showed declining sales in Asia-Pacific and the Americas. For the period ending on June 30th, the toy maker reported a nearly 24% year-over-year rise in first-half revenue to roughly $2.5 billion. Russian and Ukrainian strikes on infrastructure in the Black Sea region are continuing to pressure wheat prices, compounding global food security concerns. CNBC analysts warn farmers may not be able to plant their usual levels of crops this winter as they face profitability and financing pressures, jeopardizing next year's supply. A teen girl whose lawsuit was a test case in litigation accusing social media companies of deliberately addicting young people has dropped her claims against the owners of Instagram, Facebook, and more. The plaintiff, a 15-year-old girl from New Jersey, had alleged that Meta, Google, and Snap contributed to her social media addiction, depression, and self-harm. And finally, summer work for teens may soon be a thing of the past. The Pew Research Center reports that roughly 35% of Gen Zers were employed with the summer gig this season.
What does that mean? That is that like a new low in terms of employment?
Yeah, in terms of summer jobs for teenagers, yes, that is the specific sector that this study covered.
Yeah, I
What
wonder.
are they doing?
Did it suggest that they didn't get them because other people had taken them and they weren't available, or they were just too lazy to work?
I think some of it has to do with AI, that it's taken away some of the entry-level jobs, but I think also some of it is that maybe they don't want to work.
But don't a lot of them work at restaurants and they work as a lifeguard, stuff like that, where you couldn't have AI doing it?
AI is not going to affect that. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I loved my summer gigs when I was a kid, like serving and talking to people and friends, and then the social stuff after. I feel like they're missing out, like not even just on the money stuff.
What did you do? What were those jobs? Like
I
at
was
a restaurant?
Yeah, I was a server and a bartender. So did a little bit of both.
Like in high school, like when you were still in high school, you were doing that?
High school
bartend in high school?
No. That was more in college.
Yeah.
But but yeah, serving. Applebee's does car side to go. That was like my first official restaurant job, being like the car side to go gal. Yeah, made a lot of friends that way.
I love that. How about you, Kim? What'd you do?
I worked as a receptionist at hair salons, and I think it's only because my older sister did that, so then I just kind of got into that. I actually never worked as a server, and not that I wished I did, but I feel like people say it's great money and it's good experience just to deal with people. But
sure,
I dealt with plenty of people and their issues.
I worked at amusement
nail
parks.
salons. Did you really?
Wow.
You dressed up as one of the characters?
My good friend of mine, his dad ran. There was a little place called LaSwordsville Lake, not far from where I grew up, and it was back when those little amusement parks could still exist against the big boys. And he ran some of the games, like the whack-a-mole and all that, and they had to have somebody who was the barker out front trying to get people to come over and play. That was one of the jobs that I had. And then I went to work at Kings Island, if you've ever heard of it. It's a big amusement park outside of Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I imagine that was fun.
It was a good time. It was absolutely fun. A lot of fun. All right. Hey, have good luck with the food in 20 minutes.
17 minutes now, Nicole. You're that much closer.
Who's counting?
We'll check on your well-being on Monday. How about that?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was a fun job. I don't know how this happened. There was one job that I know of at that amusement park, and maybe come to think of it, Six Flags would be the same way. There was one job that was indoor, and that was working the front gate. So I was a cashier, basically, at the front gate for Kings Island in Ohio. So I sat in an air-conditioned booth. And everybody else who had to work the rides and all of that stuff were sweating their rear ends off in the park all summer, and I'd come out feeling, fresh as a rose because I was cool and
not
collected.
a bad gig, I guess.
No. Plus, I learned how to give change.
And can you imagine
'Cause that was
nowadays? I feel like
pre-credit
everyone,
card.
if they don't have a calculator nowadays, probably like, hang on, let me get my phone out and do my calculator on my phone.
I mean, that's why some of these stores have to shut down when the power goes out because their people aren't capable of counting change back to people anymore.
Maybe that's why a lot of these businesses are saying no cash. It's not because it's just easier or counterfeit bills. It's because people can't count.
They don't have the ability to change a $50 bill or a $100 bill,
Man, so wild. I remember in college, my dad would say, my parents had this mindset of, okay, you don't have to work per se. I mean, I paid for most of my college education. They did help me a little bit. But the idea was like, you've got to be getting, spending your time on school. And I did work a little bit at the TV station where I'd get some money. But I kind of regret actually not working more because I would have been able to then use that money. Well,
Sure.
Okay. I say I would have used that money to pay off my loans. Let's be real. That's probably not at the time what I would have used that money for. Maybe it is a good thing I didn't work.
It is. See, and again, my first job in college was at the local radio station at Miami University in Ohio. And it was the highest paying hourly job on campus.
Really?
But the problem was the job they wanted to hire you for was to be a board operator. And it was always the overnight shift paid the most. It was a shift differential.
Yep.
So I'd go over there and work from midnight to 6 a.m. running the board and lay down between breaks. All I had to do was be awake at the top of the hour to say, you're listening to 99.1 WMUB. Somebody had to do the station break at the top of the hour. So I'd set an alarm and I'd sleep in between the times when I had to do those breaks because I was a college student. And little did I know 40 years later I'd still be working those hours.
I used to edit for the TV station, KOMU from Mizzou's campus, but the shift, pretty much one of the only shifts you got paid for was the overnight shift, and it was from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. You edit for the morning show.
Of course.
It was brutal.
Because nobody else wanted that at those hours, for sure. All right, coming up, we'll get to In on the News here in a minute. Next hour, Congressman Eric Burlison talking about data centers and flock cameras. We'll be right back.
Well, good morning. On the roads, we look pretty good, typical of a Friday morning. Gosh, and this is one of our last summer before school morning commutes on a Friday, and we look good. Now, northbound 55 is now in good shape. We're quiet on eastbound 70. Don't forget, tomorrow, crews are going to close all of the eastbound lanes on 6440 from Jefferson to 6th Street, 5 a.m. until 2:30. They've got some work to do there. Quiet on the Illinois side as well at this hour. This report brought to you by Spas and More. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Someone very interesting just came out in support of flock cameras.
The Emperor is a fan of flock, and we must continue utilizing flock technologies so that we can follow and surveil the rebel scum as they move from playground to playground, from playground to pool, from pool to gymnasium, because we all know that the flock cameras are not only following the license plate readers, they are following children. They are following children in parks and gymnasiums, and we need this. I need this so I can stalk my ex-girlfriend.
Okay, so he just goes on and on and on.
Is he wearing the helmet?
He's wearing the whole getup
my
for
gosh.
Darth Vader, or as my 3-year-old calls him, Darth Mater. The other day, Easton, we're talking about people in the Bible, and I'm like, buddy, who's in the Bible? And he's like, David, Goliath, Noah, Darth Mater.
I mean, it could be.
It could be.
Oh, it was so funny. Anyway, this guy dresses up as Darth Vader at a San Diego City meeting to say he likes flock.
Tongue in cheek, so to speak.
Yeah.
Tongue in mask,
Pretty funny.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Listen to this. I should have sent this one to my daughter. There's a Georgia State University girl who is described as a math whiz. She's 19. She just finished her 4-year college degree in 14 months.
Jeez.
In 4 semesters, she got enough points, enough credits to graduate from Georgia State University.
How many hours of classes are you taking to be able to do that?
Ivana Poloshenko got her bachelor's degree from the University in Atlanta, where she condensed a 4-year college experience into 4 semesters from June of 2025 to August of 2026. And I guess she basically worked her rear end off. I didn't see specifically how she managed to squeeze that many hours in, but it was a gruesome 8-course spring. She'd wake up at 7:30, and she would be in class all day long till like 6:45.
Wow.
Obviously,
Good for her.
she had some serious AP credits coming
I'm trying to put it together.
She
Sue.
came in as a
sophomore.
sophomore, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
That's impressive. All right. Imagine being the road crew having to deal with this. There was a tractor trailer in Rhode Island that was trying to make a turn and couldn't quite do it, ended up falling over, tipping over, and ended up releasing more than 20 tons of squid onto the road. It shut down that road for 8 hours while crews had to pick up all the squid on the road.
Were they a lot? I assume that they were
Yeah.
being transported somewhere.
It was going to a processing facility out of town. So
okay.
would that be, I guess, dead?
Were there people out there trying to rescue them? I wonder.
I don't know that.
Maybe
I just see
mosquito
pictures of
around?
all the squid and this poor guy who's walking by, I guess, trying to pick him up. But the driver ended up
Imagine the
getting
smell.
cited.
I was thinking
know.
that.
That's what I mean. These poor people having to do this. It says the driver was cited for failure to secure a load. Well, yeah, I'd say so.
This story fascinates me because I got to take one of those Danube River cruises a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The water levels on the Danube are so low. How low are they? They're so low that they've uncovered dozens of World War II German ships, some of them battleships that they were hiding in the Danube, apparently. And on some of them, they've recovered old motorcycles and things like that. But in some of them, they've actually, in these ships, they went in and they found remains still in the ships. Isn't that? And they were German soldiers they found in these ships. So I don't know. I know they've had a heat wave over there. I didn't know they were undergoing a drought as well.
Wow.
I'm surprised treasure hunters aren't out there trying to find stuff.
Maybe they will be now.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yeah.
probably will be. Yeah.
That's just the stuff that's been uncovered. Think
Right.
what else is under there that hasn't been yet. Have you guys been following this crazy story out of Nashville where this woman was getting a routine knee surgery and the anesthesiologist ended up accidentally giving her potassium and it's now led to her being paralyzed?
I did hear something about that.
Ugh.
Can you imagine?
So I assume that they're suing the hell out of this hospital?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is right where I used to live, but it's made national headlines now. This is Ascension St. Thomas Hospital in Midtown, Nashville. And a 72-year-old woman just goes in. This is why anesthesiologists get paid a lot of money, because you really want to trust that they're giving you the right medication and that they're monitoring it throughout the entire surgery to make sure that you have the correct level of it so that you don't wake up, you don't feel it. Because you've heard those nightmare stories where they can't actually move their mouth or their eyes enough during surgery to say anything, but they can feel it.
Oh, God. Don't say that.
You guys have heard that.
That's
I mean,
all.
it
I have
doesn't
heard
happen
those
often,
stories.
but we've all
Like,
heard those stories.
I have heard those stories. Wow. All right. So apparently, for the first time in history, this is in Not the Bee. So it's not the Babylon Bee. It's Not the Bee. They post headlines that are actually real. Robot manager fires human employee for the first time in history that we know of. She was late for 17 of her 23 shifts at the market and would spontaneously leave in the middle of her shift. So the AI manager recommended firing her. I guess it was tracking employee production or whatever.
Well, it sounds like she should have been
I
fired.
know. I'm like, it sounds like it.
I'm not saying she didn't deserve it. I'm just saying they're reporting here that a robot fired somebody. AI.
Does she get like an email then? Like, hey, you're fired?
I don't know. I guess maybe her car just quit working. Her car wouldn't run anymore. I mean, you'd probably just infiltrated everything.
I'm watching this story right now on Fox News about some little raccoon who would put his little paw up. It was at the stands at the stadium, I think, in New York. And it's people were putting like hot dogs and stuff down the hole. And the little raccoon, you would see his hand come up and grab the food and pull it down.
Was it Jimothy?
Oh,
Probably
not.
not.
I forgot about Jimothy.
Could have been Jimmy. Could have
How
been
can you
what
forget
John
about
Thunes
Jimothy?
during his break.
Where is
from Senate.
Jimothy? Has he been spotted recently? He is so cute.
It's back in South Dakota.
And I don't even like raccoons.
Yeah.
Of course you don't.
Coming up, Jim Carafano. We'll get his take on the latest deal with Iran and some of these crushing economic sanctions. And, in fact, some of them might include China, plus Congressman Eric Burlison. Stay tuned.
She praised Allah for 9/11. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The New York woman accused of plotting her own terror attack in Albany, now jailed after making her first court appearance.
She had a lot of social media profiles and was prolific online, espousing anti-American beliefs.
That's FBI Special Agent Craig Tremoroli.
35-year-old Jessica Bowie allegedly, ideally, wanted to blow up the White House in an ISIS-inspired attack, but she chose to target New York State Capitol instead because it was, quote, the biggest political building she knows of in the area. Authorities say Bowie had been radicalized online and had pledged allegiance to ISIS in May. Investigators say she intended to use a DoorDash bag to conceal the bomb once it was made. On August 19th, Bowie was arrested holding the weapons.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. As President Trump plans what he calls an economic D-Day to do more financial harm to Iran in the conflict, 5,000 sailors and Marines are finally getting a much-needed break as the USS Abraham Lincoln's deployment ends, replaced by another aircraft carrier.
The Lincoln's been at sea for 272 days, and it's still got a long sail ahead, with 13,000 miles to get from the Arabian Sea to San Diego. Concerns about the Lincoln have been growing, with reports of a stressed-out crew, bad plumbing, and supply shortages. Several Democratic lawmakers have pressed the War Department for details on the Lincoln's conditions.
Fox's Jill Nato. Investigators in Alaska trying to figure out why a small plane crashed after a takeoff flight from Anchorage. 8 people killed.
The crash happened at Cape Newenham Long-Range Radar Site Airport. That's 450 miles west of Anchorage. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Robert Davis reacted to the deadly crash, saying, quote, this is a devastating loss for our military family and the communities we serve.
Fox's Marianne Rafferty. The flight was chartered by the Army Corps of Engineers. America's listening to Fox News.
In a recent survey of 123,000 wireless customers, Pure Talk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. What else do you need to know? Switch to Pure Talk today and get any plan, including their top shelf unlimited data plan, for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. No contract, no commitment. Dial pound 250, say micro, and let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil. One simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
Good morning. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk. Hey, a really great start to our weekend weather-wise. 66 degrees now downtown at 7:03. Here's what's making headlines on this Friday, August 21st. St. Charles County Police say they'll stop using flock cameras after a civilian employee was caught misusing the system. The police chief says the employee admitted to using the system for an inappropriate non-law enforcement purpose after a new audit tool flagged the searches. The employee was put on unpaid leave before resigning. All 28 flock cameras St. Charles County Police were using have since been covered with bags. Oakville in South St. Louis County is now at the center of a murder-suicide investigation. Police were called to a home in the 3000 block of Cambridge View Court around 4:30 Thursday afternoon for a welfare check. Police believe a man shot a woman and then killed himself. At this point, no other information has been released. One of 3 members St. Louis County Executive Sam Page appointed to the Regional Tourism Board Thursday is its former leader who was pushed out by the same board 2 years ago. The Post-Dispatch reports former Explore St. Louis president Kitty Ratcliffe has been tapped to fill one of the 3 spots on the board. Ratcliffe had retired 10 months before her contract was up amid criticism from some board members about going more than $40 million over budget on the convention center expansion. All right, in sports, Cardinals have another series win under their belt after beating the Reds 10-9 yesterday. The Cardinals' long road trip continues, playing the Phillies tonight at 5:40. Over the weekend, actually tomorrow, I should say, City SC faces Houston Dynamo at 7:30. It is day 2 today of the BMW Championship going on at Belle Reef Country Club. Rory McIlroy tied for first right now. That'll continue tomorrow, and then it'll wrap up on Sunday. 66 degrees now, 5 minutes after the hour. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis conservative.
We have a stall on northbound 55 a little bit past Loughborough. Watch for that on the right-hand side. But we generally have that light Friday morning traffic, and this is throughout the area. So things are in good shape at this hour from out west into downtown. Quiet even on the Illinois side where we've got all that road work. And no delays on the bridges if you are headed in from Illinois. Of course, the big construction note for the weekend is the closure of eastbound 6440 tomorrow at 5 a.m. until 2:30 p.m., and it will close all the eastbound lanes of 40 from Jefferson to 6th Street. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Mm. 66 degrees now, coming up on 7:07. As a reminder, you can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. Listen to the show anytime. You'll find it all on our free Odyssey app.
Every day I meet people whose lives have been impacted by fentanyl. It's a hidden danger. You can't see, taste, or smell. But just one pill, actually 2 milligrams, can be deadly.
All right. Did you know it is National DEA Fentanyl Prevention Day, Kim?
I did not know that.
You did not know that?
How would we celebrate that? By not doing fentanyl?
By not doing fentanyl, by reporting anybody that you know who's selling it,
All right, I'll change my plans for the day. Hang on.
By blowing up any ships you see in the ocean who might be bringing it to the U.S. I played that for you right off the top here because I think it's interesting. We have an article in the paper today that the mayor is mad at the police chief in the city for bringing in federal agents to surge against crime. I wonder how she feels about this. You think she's opposed to National DEA Fentanyl Prevention Day because it requires arresting criminals. That's kind of the point. Would be my point here. That was Terry Cole. He's the head of the DEA, and he was putting that warning out for everybody today. Listen.
Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for adults 18 to 45. It's often hidden in pills and powder, and it can impact anyone. This Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day, join DEA to achieve a fentanyl-free America.
Thank you, and thanks to all of our hardworking DEA agents out here in the St. Louis office, for sure. I think it's great that they're drawing attention to that, given what's going on, and we are celebrating, in fact, the fact that fentanyl deaths have plummeted. And why do you think that is? Because of the crackdown on the border and on these drug cartels by the Trump White House. 22%. Fentanyl deaths are down 22% since that started. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All because of a secure border. And here let me put numbers to that to you. Synthetic opioid deaths dropped from 48,913 to 38,084. So a 10,000 death drop. 10,000 people were not unalived because we cracked down on fentanyl. And total drug overdose deaths fell 14% at the same time.
Maybe the Trump administration has been talking about this and I just missed it, but that's the kind of thing that the Trump administration needs to be screaming from the rooftop, because that is something that the suburban moms who have been won over by the liberal, the Democratic socialists in some case, they've won them over. But that is something that people care about, who have children and worry about this thing happening to them. So I would really hope that message is really harped on. I mean, the Trump administration has to make sure with this messaging leading up to the midterms that they're saying, hey, look what we've done with the economy. Hey, look what we've done here. Look what we've done here. Instead of just, I don't know, sometimes we focus so much on Iran, and that's important, no doubt. We should be talking about that.
Right.
But it's just going to be so key that they're also mentioning things that they've done that have benefited us that we might not realize are happening.
Well, I don't know who makes it National Fentanyl Prevention Day. I do know that the Trump administration has been talking about this because it was on Fox yesterday or the day before, and now it's National Fentanyl Prevention Day. So you're right. To your point, I'm glad they're taking credit for credit's due because most people aren't paying attention to it because the deaths have dropped.
Well,
so it's not in the headlines as much.
And for the people who are so against closing the border or having any sort of accountability for people who come here illegally, you need to say, look, you know how this fentanyl, the deaths are down, and the fear you might have with your kids getting a hold of this somehow and dying from it. The reason why that is down in part, a large part of that is because of what we've done at the border. Yep. So they have to really not only tell people what they've done, but connect the dots for people because they won't do it themselves.
I would agree with that. It's national security is what it is. It addresses national security. Having that border secure makes such a big difference. Speaking of national security, Jim Carafano is going to join us as he usually does on a Friday. Occasionally he's jetting off around the globe, but we get him this morning, which is good because there's some, I don't know if you call it progress in the Middle East between Hamas, the negotiations with Hamas over there. Somebody said that, they still haven't laid down even a slingshot or agreed to it. So we'll see what J.J. Carafano thinks about that agreement between Israel and the Peace Board and Hamas. We will see. Eric Burlison's coming up, the congressman. He's our UFO connection. We use him a lot for UAP advice, but he's also, of course, a former member of the Freedom Coalition in Missouri. And he's wants to talk about flock cameras this morning. In fact, Nick Schroer yesterday put out a release basically calling for banning them. And right now they're being banned in St. Charles County because of an incident over there. We're going to talk more about that with the congressman here at the bottom of the hour. And next hour, Joe Brazel from the St. Charles County Council is going to join us to talk about that story going on out in St. Charles County. And Trey Gowdy, at the top of the next hour, 1 hour from now, we will have former Congressman Trey Gowdy on here. Among other things, we'll talk to him about Darlene Graham, that big race going on in his home state down there, where she certainly stumbled early on in her political career. There's no doubt about that. We'll see what his take is on that. And right now, let's go ahead and get to – hold on. We can't go ahead and get to that because it just dawned on me that I have not handed Ethan the all-important shortlist sheet here.
Yeah, that's true.
What was I thinking
about? Do people realize that you're doing that? That Mark has to fill out a little thing that Ethan makes a little form, and he puts numbers to say which clips he wants?
Yeah, I noticed just a minute ago a brief look of panic on Ethan's face when I started to say, let's get to the short list, because I really hadn't given him anything to get to yet. So let me do this. I'll hand you this, and as soon as he can get the bump music started, we will get to the short list. I promise you that.
That I'm committed to universal health care. And we delivered it regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and immigration status.
There you have it. This is the guy that wants to be president of the United States, Gavin Newsom, in that overmodulated soundbite, promising you, bragging about the fact that he did provide taxpayer-paid health care to illegal aliens, to people that didn't pay a dime into the system, and he just gave it away to them because he thought it was the right thing to do. If you don't think that guy would bankrupt the United States of America, you're blind.
We saw an unusual high number for one of the users, and as we dug into that, they brought that to my attention. I started an internal investigation immediately, and then it was determined, these weren't law enforcement investigative searches. They were personal.
Yep. Chief Frizz there out in St. Charles County talking about the firing of an employee who was abusing the flock system, the license plate readers to track someone that she shouldn't have been tracking. Gone now, out of the system. The audit caught them, but I guess out of an abundance of caution, they're suspending the use of those flock cameras.
We were left with a mess. The Biden administration had the highest deficit to GDP in history when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession. For 2025, we brought it down by more than 1%.
I think that's an important point. I'm glad Scott Besson is still out there making that point every day, right? Sometimes he does it. It sounds a little nerdy when he's doing it, the way he talks, but it's the truth. People need to remember that. This affordability issue started and continues to impact Americans because of the Biden administration policies. Going back to that would be insane.
It's easier to get an AR-15 in the United States than it is to get an abortion.
Man, where do you start? That is Mikey Sherrill, the New Jersey governor, who's out talking proudly about her support of Planned Parenthood and fighting for women's rights. And is there anybody with a brain cell left who thinks she's right? I mean, are there actually? I know the crowd she's talking to has probably never purchased a weapon, but many of them have had abortions, and it's as simple as driving to your local abortion clinic. They won't even give you an ultrasound because they don't want you to see the child growing inside of you, because many women change their minds once they realize the lie that it's a child, and they'll be happy to give you an abortion. It's how they make money at Planned Parenthood.
Despite what they'll tell you.
Yeah. Unlike the gun store where you might just decide to randomly walk in off the street, but to buy that said AR-15, you need to not be a criminal, and to exercise your constitutional right to keep and bear that arm, you have to go through an extensive FBI background check that sometimes takes anywhere from a half hour to several hours, right? Those two things are not the same, but the ignorant people listening to Mikey Sherrill don't know the difference because they don't own guns, because they're scared of them. So I just had to play that nonsense for you this morning when I heard it a few minutes ago. All right, we will get to a break here because Jim Carafano is coming up. Congressman Eric Burlison at the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned.
Looking good on the roads this morning. Eastbound 70 and 44 both look great from out west into downtown. Now, eastbound 6440, we've got an accident reported as you approach 270. So we're starting to see just a little bit of volume in that area. But that's kind of the exception to the rule. By the way, there's a sunshine slowdown in that area as well. Now, northbound traffic on 55 looks pretty good. And if you're on the Illinois side, there's the beginnings of some volume on westbound 64 at 157. And, of course, that is where we've got road work. This report brought to you by Midwest Gun Works. For nearly 3 decades, firearm enthusiasts have trusted Midwest Gun Works for hard-to-find parts, expert gunsmithing, and quality gear. Your next build or repair starts here. Shop MidwestGunworks.com or visit Midwest Gun Works in Peevely, Missouri. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Let's talk about your foundation of your home and how important it is. Everything, your financial foundation is important. Of course, your home foundation is important. It's the biggest investment for most of us. So when something goes wrong, you need to really focus on that and get it fixed and quit putting it off. And just knowing that the next time it rains, you're going to be in the basement with a mop, mopping up the water. You don't have to live like that. The reason Matt Hayes is offering great financing options right now, including 24 months, same as cash financing, is so that people can get the job done. It's not always cheap, but it's not also a bank breaker in most cases. If you just have a crack in your wall and there's some water seeping down it, Matt can seal that up, and he's still going to give you a lifetime warranty on the work. But if you have a bigger job, that's intimidating. Matt gets that. He said people tend to hesitate to call. You need to find out. And what you also need is somebody who'll be honest with you about what the problem is and not try to upsell you. 314-271-9900. That gets you to Matt Hayes and Home Shield Foundation Repairs. Be sure and tell them Marc Cox sent you over there. Online anytime at homeshieldfoundationrepairs.com.
The time now is 7:22, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. We've got Representative Eric Burlison coming up in the Capitol Beat. That's going to be at 7:35.
You know, I was born in the South. South Bronx.
All right, we got Jim Carafano on the line from a highly classified location we can't talk about, but we're glad he's here. How are you, Jim?
I'm just glad you got some real rock and roll music for a change.
I do, man.
You guys.
It's back. It's back. We ended up. It was a big discussion here this week because we had to stop playing music that was streaming because the streaming services wanted to charge us for it, even though we already are licensed as a radio station to play the music. So we had to kind of separate the two. But now I can start playing my rock and roll music again.
Nice.
Little
He's
Rush.
very happy.
Little Rush. I saw them live a couple weeks ago. It was fantastic.
I saw them live in 1970.
They're still out there. They're still at it, minus their drummer. They had to get a new drummer.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I heard some news yesterday that some new evidence or some new claims of how close Iran might have been to a nuclear weapon. Is there anything to that?
I think so. I mean, I was always in the camp because you have to remember, every nation in the history of nations, going back to the United States, that when people said this is when they're going to have a nuclear weapon, we were always wrong. And it was always turned out to be way faster than we thought. Because think about it. This is 1945 technology we're talking about here, right?
Right.
So I was always in the camp that the Iranian decision to become a nuclear power, a declared nuclear power, was never a technical decision. It wasn't an assembly line. It was a political decision. That because you only get to do that once, and that they were reserving that choice for when they thought they needed to make it. So if somebody said to me, hey, I think they could have had a nuclear bomb tomorrow, I would have said, yeah. But I will also say, doing the publicly available assessment of the information that we have available to us, in an unclassified manner, I do not believe they can build a nuclear bomb now. nor do I see how unless completely alone and there was no interdiction, no non-proliferation action, how they could ever build one again.
Wow.
Unless we just let them do it.
Even before any sort of an agreement is officially made, whenever the time comes, I mean, Jim, we would have had people who were in Iran checking to see where they were at with that. That's how we knew, right? So I would imagine that has to be a thing moving forward, where we have someone regularly over there making sure that they're not getting to that point again with the enriched uranium.
Right. Well, us and of course the Israelis. And I actually think that, because I wrote an article about this just the other day where I said Iran, deal or no deal doesn't matter. Iran is North Korea without the nuclear weapons. And because I think one of the lessons learned for this, not just for the United States, but for the community writ large, is if you really believe in nonproliferation and not letting somebody illegally develop a nuclear weapons program, you have to stop them sooner than later. So I don't think we're ever going to allow a rogue. I don't think that, as a matter of U.S. policy, we are never going to allow a rogue regime to develop to the point where they can actually declare themselves a nuclear weapons power.
Right. So, maybe this is a point that people already understand. I don't know. North Korea has nuclear capabilities. We understand, right? What's the difference between Kim Jong-un and the Ayatollah? Kim Jong-un is a tyrant who's obsessed with power and control as a communist, and the Ayatollahs are crazed Islamists who want to kill everybody in the world.
Well, the fundamental difference between the two countries was always that North Korea is a tiny little impoverished country with no assets, tucked up in a corner of the world where they really can't threaten much of anybody, facing a conventional army that's much, much larger than them. And Iran was a powerful country with immense oil wealth sitting in the middle of the world.
Right.
And so it was always much more crucial that Iran not become a nuclear power than North Korea. But having said that, having now watched what North Korea has done, I think the policy going forward is no more rogue regimes. Because let's remember what would have happened. And this is the people that just dismiss the whole, this is an optional war. We didn't need to do this. This is a war of choice. If the great threat always was that if Iran got a nuclear weapon, not only would it be a more aggressive, dangerous state, but we know for a fact that Saudi Arabia would have become a declared nuclear power. Turkey would have got nuclear weapons. Egypt would have got nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. And we have all been sitting around staring at each other. And that is completely matter of fact, we ran this scenario a long time ago. And every time we ran the scenario with all those countries being nuclear powers, we always had nuclear war.
Wow. That's a stunning way to end this, Jim, because I'm out of time. Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend from your secure location.
You rock on, my friend.
All right. I'll see you. Jim Carafano there. Yeah. The answer is, do we have anybody on the ground there to determine? They're called Mossad. They'll keep us up to date. We'll be right back.
Well, there's an accident eastbound 6440, pretty close to Mason, kind of between Maryville Center and Mason, and it is creating a slow go in that area. But that's the worst of it right now. I mean, we've got some moderate volume along northbound 270, right there at Manchester, and again at the Clayton Road overpass. At 70 eastbound, there's a sunshine slowdown near 94, but that's about it. Now, on the Illinois side, 64 westbound is slowing at 157, but that's it. Other than that, we're good. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, time to think about selling your house. Have you had that conversation? The market is still moving out there. It also depends on where you are and what the price range is. These are all questions that I don't have an answer to, but I've got a person, and her name is Gloria Liu. She's my real estate agent, and you're going to love her. You just call her up and have a conversation with her. You're not under any obligation. If you have questions about your neighborhood, they'll do a market analysis for you, a very low-pressure situation. But here's the great thing about Gloria. Unlike a lot of agents, she will promise to buy your house. If she can't sell it, she'll put it in writing for you at a price you both agree to, or she will promise you to get you full market value or pay you the difference. That means when you go to closing, you know you didn't leave any money on the table because you've got an agreement with Gloria up front. Call her and ask her about any or all of these. If you need to sell your home in a hurry, she's got access to a lot of people willing to bid cash, including market value. That means you don't deal with a lot of inspections and walkthroughs and all that stuff. 314-325-6888. That's how you get a hold of her. 325-6888. Tell her Mark was bragging about her. Go online at gloriahasthebuyers.com. All right, so been a lot of talk about flock cameras, right? We've got the debate going on in St. Charles County right now. Of course, they caught the person who was accused of abusing the system, and they fired them. But they've now put bags over all of their flock cameras, which is just one of these license plate reading systems. There are several of them out there, and I heard Chief Frizz say this yesterday from St. Charles County that to him that is concerning because he sees it as another tool that law enforcement uses with great success when it comes to finding criminals. I mean, you have to really just buy whole hog into the fact that you believe they're tracking everybody if the system's set up right, they're not tracking everybody. They're tracking people who are breaking the law. And I think if those guidelines are in place, and it's something that is a tool I wouldn't mind seeing law enforcement have some access to, because if it's my child whose car gets carjacked and they're trying to find the car, that's a great tool in the tool chest. Just my 2 cents on the whole thing. Everybody has a different opinion on it. Let's get to the Capitol Beat, please.
Capitol Beat.
All right, we've got Congressman Eric Burlison with us, who I think has been over at the State Fair in Sedalia. Congressman, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fine. Good morning to you. We're talking about flock cameras over here today because in St. Charles County they've had a dust up. I don't know if you read about that or not, but basically they caught an employee who was abusing the system, tracking somebody repeatedly that she shouldn't have been tracking. She got fired, and now they have suspended and appear to be on the verge of just banning the use of flock cameras in St. Charles County.
Yeah, well, this whole, it's not just St. Charles County. This is happening all over the country, and this has caused a national stir and a good debate, and hopefully it'll be a thoughtful debate about what is the balance between keeping people safe and letting people retain their freedom and their constitutional rights, And so I think that I think it's good that we are having this discussion. We probably need lawmakers to step in and create some guidelines around how these kind of systems can operate and what they can and can't do.
Yeah, I saw where Nick Schroer, who, of course, is now leading the Freedom Caucus that used to be a member of when you served in the Missouri Senate, is calling basically for these things to be banned around the state. If I read this correctly, he wants municipal and county governments, everyone in the state, to terminate their contract with flock safety. How do you feel about that?
Well, honestly, Mark, I would agree with Nick at this moment. To me, I err on the side of freedom. I think that to be a little bit philosophical or to wax philosophical, I think we're a nation that was built by people that understood that there was a real cost to freedom. They risked their lives, they risked the lives of their families and nearly everyone in the colonies in order to get freedom. And so I think that we have to recognize that that's the fabric of what this nation was built on, and that comes with risks, and that comes with an understanding that that there is a sacrifice for the kind of liberties that we enjoy. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that criminals should be able to run amok and we should turn a blind eye to the things that they're doing. But there's a balance there. And so that's why I think that the problem I think we have is that we've allowed a system to be stood up that without any kind of guidelines or regulations. And as you can see, we're already seeing some of the real abuses of this system. And God only knows what could have happened, if flock cameras had been in place, for example, during COVID. What a Biden administration and liberal communities could have done with the kind of power that you would have with a flock camera system or something, some of the other electronic monitoring systems that are available today.
Should it require a warrant? I mean, I'm thinking back. Did you support the reauthorization of FISA?
I did not. No,
so,
not without a warrant.
Right. So again, I mean, it would certainly slow down a law enforcement response if the cameras were in place, but you had to go get a warrant to use them to track a suspect that we thought just, carjacked somebody with a kid inside. But would that be enough of a safeguard?
I think that Amber Alerts, for example, is a process that I actually worked on whenever I was a state lawmaker to streamline that process. Every law enforcement agency in the state now has inside their vehicle it's all seamlessly connected, where you can activate an Amber Alert from your local law enforcement software, and it escalates all the way up to the highway patrol, and then it even goes out to the broadcasters. Like you guys and the television broadcasters, the billboards, and that process, there's checks along the way. And you can easily put in very rapid response digital processes that would include a judge or someone that would have a thoughtful moment where they could pause and determine if there's a need for a warrant. And that would certainly stop the kind of, looky-loo kind of people like this, like the person that was caught in St. Charles.
It's just hard because it's like, okay, in an emergency situation, you don't want them to have to jump through those hoops. And then the other challenge, and you guys touched on this, was, okay, well, right now under Trump, you feel a little bit more confident that they wouldn't be taken advantage of by the federal government if they even could do that. But then what if we have a super liberal, like what if we had a Gavin Newsom who was somehow elected president? You know what I mean? What could come of that? I guess Flock would still have the ability as a private company to say, no, we're not doing this. Or police departments would be able to say, no, you can't use this information in that way.
Kim, I think those are some of the exact questions that we need to be evaluating, and I think Nick Shore is a thoughtful senator and someone that I trust state lawmakers to make these decisions. But I think that on the national level, what we will probably be doing is making sure that there are safeguards where the federal government doesn't have access to this unless it's absolutely necessary. Because the real power would be centralizing all that data,
right, and
creating national profiles on individuals that you could then use to weaponize against its own citizens.
I got it. That's true. I guess the blowback on this reminds me a little bit, although it's a different subject, of the data centers and the proliferation of those around the country. I was listening to something interesting yesterday, Congressman. I heard a woman, I think she's a Wall Street, maybe a New York Post reporter, who described the pushback against data centers as a knee-jerk reaction, and that for people concerned about water use and all that golf courses use 20 to 30% more water than a data center. I mean, that doesn't take away every concern about these things. But the point is, if we don't build them, China's going to build them.
Yeah, I definitely think that there has been a knee-jerk reaction, but it's probably been deserved in some aspects. And it's like, what I mean by that is that as a fiscal, true free market conservative, I have been screaming from the rooftops about the kinds of injustices that even Republicans do often, which is, if it's not moving, you throw money at it, right? And usually you throw taxpayer dollars at these kind of corporations in order to entice them to come in and, quote unquote, bring jobs into the community. And Missouri is very guilty of doing this kind of thing. Very guilty. And it really hasn't worked. In fact, it's not growing Missouri. We're watching other states that have low tax rates, low burdens, low regulatory burdens, and they're growing. And here we are, we keep our taxes in place, and then we try to rob Peter to pay Paul and bribe companies to come into our state. And so I think that kind of sentiment is absolutely dead on accurate. We should not be doing anything to send taxpayer dollars to subsidize any company to come in to the state, right, whether it's a data center or otherwise. But that being said, I also am a free market guy, and I don't think that we should be saying, you're a data center? We're going to now be hostile towards you because you're going to store. Actually, I think they're necessary. And they've been in existence for quite some time. I asked people the other day in my community. I said, I'm in IT. I know where there are dozens of data centers in this community. Do you all know where they are?
I'll bet not.
And most of them have no idea. And these things have been sitting there quietly humming along, generating tax revenue for the community, and nobody even knows where they are. So I think it's a lot of overblown hype, but it is good that we have this conversation about crony capitalism as well.
Real quickly, because I know we're running out of time, but we're, a couple weeks out or so from the primary. So I know we've had a couple weeks since then, but I don't think we've talked to you yet. Any reaction to what happened with, for example, Amendment 5 and 4 epically failing?
They look, I think that the moment I think they got too cute by half, and I try not to be critical of the state lawmakers because I'm no longer there, but just do away with the income tax. They have the authority to wind it down to nothing. I would have just passed a bill that said the income tax will continue to ratchet down until it's gone. And if that takes 30 years, it takes 30 years. And put that in place, put it in statute. And then what you will do is you will start seeing your local municipalities, your local school districts, all of these entities that are all dependent upon some of that money. The same people that were fighting this tax reduction will be the same people trying to find a solution, and will be probably asking the lawmakers to put Amendment 5 back on the ballot. So I would put a mechanism in place that's going to make sure that it's going to get eliminated, and then flip the script on these local municipalities that want the tax money.
Yeah, I don't know if Denny Hoskins is fighting a good fight on the initiative petition front, but I don't know if they've got the guts to put a tax cut elimination back on the ballot again. I don't know that they'll do it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you don't need to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, they just need to do it themselves.
Exactly.
I agree.
Just have the guts and do it yourself.
I hope they're listening, Congressman. I really do. Hey, how's Sedalia? You having fun over there?
It was fun. I'm now back in the district. I'm doing a tourism tour in Joplin. We'll be going to going along Route 66, seeing some of the sites, going to the George Washington Carver National Museum and other things in that area.
Nice. Congressman Eric Burlison, great having you on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Good, always good discussion with him. That's good. What's coming up in Kim on a Whim?
An American woman who pledged her allegiance to ISIS was just arrested because she had apparently been planning to bomb the New York State Capitol, the White House eventually. I'll tell you what, the woman behind this planned attack will blow your mind.
Little bit of volume out there this morning. Northbound 270 slowing just north of 55 and some slow pockets up through the Clayton Road overpass. Southbound a little bit slow at Olive, and this is all moderate volume. And eastbound 64 slowing at Ballas and again at Big Bend. Out west, southbound 61 slowing at 64. And 70 eastbound looks pretty good out west into downtown. On the Illinois side, 64 westbound slowing approaching 157. And Route 3 is jammed at both directions near Monsanto Avenue due to, of course, a slow-moving train. This report is brought to you by i3 Broadband. Summer celebrations are still around, and i3 Broadband keeps you connected. Head to i3broadband.com/radio today or call 866-806-5485 to upgrade today, because life runs better on fiber, and i3 Broadband is here for you. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
A New York woman has just been arrested after she pledged her allegiance to ISIS and was planning to attack not only the New York State Capitol, but she also had discussed future attacks, including the White House and the New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square.
This year.
The
one coming up, because she was going to, it didn't say she was going to travel somewhere.
She was going to escape to Syria, because that would go over well. And then she was planning to potentially come back to continue the attacks.
Most of these morons who get sucked into this have no idea of what their life would be like in Syria or one of these other Islamic-backed countries.
I realize I'm drawing my own conclusions here, but when you look at the picture of this woman, 35-year-old Jessica Bowie, she just doesn't look like someone you would think who would do that. Like, there's a picture of her wearing the whole getup, is it a burqa, whatever. She's scanning items at a Home Depot to build her bomb that she was going to hide in a DoorDash bag, a food delivery bag.
Wow.
And she thought she was talking with someone from ISIS, but turned out it was somebody with the FBI.
So they gave her money. Did I hear Fox report this morning that they gave her money
to go build the bomb?
To go buy the bomb parts, $200, and she went, and the video you're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, is her at Home Depot checking out with the bomb-making equipment, correct? The fertilizer and all that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She had like a huge thing of nails. Come on now.
Have you never read a single spy novel in your life? I mean, you don't buy it all at one place or all at the same time. I've read enough crime series that anybody knows that. That's how they recruit these people. They're stupid to begin with.
If I were building a bomb, not saying I am, but
I
would.
I'm just saying I've read plenty of spy novels, and you don't have to have a very creative mind to understand that theory, I don't think.
Since the FBI, the informant only gave her $200, she said that she wishes she could have funded a big operation.
Well, she had to have something that would fit in a delivery bag, right? How was she going to deliver it? Did she say?
It was a DoorDash delivery bag. Just put the bomb in the DoorDash delivery bag.
Oh my!
Nothing to see here.
I mean, it's we're laughing about it, but it's deadly serious. Thank God they stopped her, and we know that they're keeping an eye on people like this, right?
It's just really scary because you keep having these people who are radicalized, and they're radicalized here in the United States. Like just last month, there was somebody who was in New York, 37-year-old Catherine Beth Washburn, who was radicalized. And it says that she was charged with allegedly supporting an Islamic terrorist organization after donating $30,000 in cryptocurrency to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group in Gaza. That is very alarming. I mean, we talk about how many people are coming over to our country, and that is something that we need to be these sleeper cells. But these are people who are, I would imagine this Jessica Bowie woman who was just arrested is an American citizen, but she was still radicalized to the point where she thought it was a good idea to bomb the White House and to bomb, Times Square and the New York State Capitol.
She told the informant that she went from being a little girl waving an American flag after 9/11 to now having stickers of the fallen towers celebrating what happened.
Yeah. Isn't that so sad? How do you get to that point? I would really love to know these people like her who have been radicalized. I don't know how long it took for them to get her from I love my country to I am so glad that 9/11 happened. How long does that take the average person who goes through that? And what is said to you that convinces you? I know it's not an overnight thing. It's probably over time, and really what you have to do is what the left has been effective at doing, which is you for example, make Osama bin Laden seem like the victim. You say, yes, well, this is really why he was justified in this attack, because he had a terrible childhood and he tried to get out of it, and this yada 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 yada, and then you start to feel bad for them, and you think, well, he had to do that. He had no other choice. He was justified in doing that. Yeah, and I guess you become a radical, extremist.
The left in this country has learned their lesson very well, and they mainstreamed it in our schools. And they're not, while they're not radicalizing Islamists in our schools necessarily, they are certainly warping the minds of our children to their belief system, whatever that happens to be. In this case, trans kids, matter T-shirts and, Pride Month T-shirts. And, whatever they believe in, they have a way of melding these kids' minds, forming them to believe that is the only way to think.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
And
it really is.
And for another Kim on a Whim earlier this week, I was talking about the lack of effort or wanting to assimilate. People who come over here, they want us to cater to them. There was talk of having a foot washing station. Ethan, which airport was it? Do you remember? Was it Seattle?
I thought it was Dallas-Fort Worth.
Okay. Well, apparently they scrapped that because there was enough public outcry, and rightfully so. Where are we living? We're here in America, and we're going to put... I mean, some people have nasty feet, and you should wash your feet. But we all know that was not because you all have nasty feet. It's because we're trying to cater to that group. We're trying to be friendly of all the other traditions. I'm sorry. No, we live in America. You don't see that here. You're going to put mats down so everyone can pray to Allah? I mean, what are we doing?
It's a good question.
You want to come here? You better adopt Western civilization values. Not saying you have to do everything. You still eat your food or whatever, but you better adopt. Don't expect us to cater to you is all I'm saying.
I would agree with that. All right, coming up, Trey Gowdy, former congressman from South Carolina. He's got his own show on Fox now on the weekends. He's also got a new book out, among other things. It's a book of fiction, actually. We're going to talk to him about that, maybe that South Carolina Senate race that's going on down there in his state. And we'll talk more about the flock cameras in St. Charles County with County Councilman Joe Brazel.
It's time to end the war. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Iran's president just said in a speech today, claiming they won and America is hated in the world. President Trump insists Iran's been decimated as he works to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon, telling his ex-lawyer Michael Cohen's WABC radio show.
The Navy's gone. The Air Force is gone. The leadership is gone. Part of the problem is so many of the leaders are gone. It's not easy to make a deal. Nobody knows who's leading.
Now, as far as the president announcing the economic D-Day plan, it's going to hit Iran even harder.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is due to announce a range of new measures on Monday, but at the center of it, of course, is the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. naval blockade, which is preventing Iranian ships going into or exiting that critical waterway.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Tel Aviv. Investigators in Alaska trying to figure out why a small plane crashed near a military base airport, killing all 8 people on board. It was chartered by the Army Corps of Engineers, 2 of its employees among those dead. A New York woman who radicalized online is now in jail. Jessica Bowie charged with plotting an ISIS-inspired terror attack targeting the state capitol in Albany.
She said, quote, "I want to destroy as much of the building as possible and kill the senators while they are meeting."
FBI Special Agent Craig Tremoroli. And Lindsay Clancy's triple murder trial in Massachusetts, testimony about to resume. Her lawyers, using an insanity defense, will call their final witness.
Psychiatrist Dr. Philip Resnick, who has studied why parents kill their children. He was a key defense witness in the Andrea Yates case. That was the Texas mother who was found not guilty by reason of insanity in 2006 for drowning her 5 kids. The jury must decide if Lindsay Clancy had the capacity to appreciate that her actions were wrong or the ability to stop herself from killing her 3 kids.
That's Fox's Brian Yanis outside the court in Plymouth. America's listening to Fox News.
In a recent survey of 123,000 wireless customers, Pure Talk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. What else do you need to know? Switch to Pure Talk today and get any plan, including their top shelf unlimited data plan, for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. No contract, no commitment. Dial pound 250, say micro, and let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil, one simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
Good morning. I'm Kim St. for 97.1 FM Talk. 8:03 right now, 66 degrees and sunny. Boy, what a perfect start here on this Friday morning. Here's a look at what's making headlines on this August 21st. St. Charles County Police say they'll stop using flock cameras after a civilian employee was caught misusing the system. The chief says the employee admitted to using the system for an inappropriate non-law enforcement purpose after this new audit tool flagged the searches. The employee was put on unpaid leave before resigning. Now, all 28 flock cameras St. Charles County Police were using have since been covered over with bags. Oakville in South St. Louis County is now at the center of a murder-suicide investigation. Police were called to a home in the 3000 block of Cambridge View Court around 4:30 Thursday afternoon for a welfare check. Police believe a man shot a woman and then killed himself. No other information has been released. One of 3 members St. Louis County Executive Sam Page appointed to the Regional Tourism Board Thursday is its former leader who was pushed out by the same board 2 years ago. The Post-Dispatch reports former Explore St. Louis president Kitty Ratcliffe has been tapped to fill one of the 3 spots on that board. Ratcliffe retired 10 months before her contract was up amid criticism from some of the board members about going more than $40 million over budget on the convention center expansion. In sports, Cardinals have another series win under their belt after beating the Reds 10-9 yesterday. The long road trip for the Cards continues, now playing the Phillies tonight at 5:40. City SC faces Houston Dynamo at home tomorrow. Kickoff for that match 7:30. It is day 2 of the BMW Championship at Belle Reef Country Club. Rory McIlroy is tied for first right now. That continues tomorrow and wraps up on Sunday. 66 degrees here downtown, 8:05. I'm Kim St. for 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
MoDOT reporting a stall northbound 55 at 3200 South Broadway. Watch for that on the right side. But mostly we just have moderate volume this morning. Northbound 270 in pockets, 55 through the Clayton Road overpass. Eastbound 64 slowing on either side of 170. Westbound a little slow as you approach Spady. 70, though, is in great shape. We're quiet for the most part throughout the rest of the area. On the Illinois side, 64 westbound, just a little slow at 157, headed for the construction zone. This report brought to you by McKelvey Homes. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
.66 degrees now, 6 minutes after the hour. You can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. Listen to the show anytime on our free Odyssey app.
Welcome back into the Marc Cox Morning Show. We're happy you're with us on this Friday morning. Still plenty to get to here. We're going to talk to County Councilman Joe Brazel coming up shortly in the next segment about what's going on in St. Charles County with these flock cameras. That's come to light because of the situation involving an employee of the police department who was accused of and ended up resigning over abuse of that flock system, tracking people they shouldn't have been tracking. So we got that coming up for you still, and we're going to talk a little bit more about alpha-gal and ticks before this hour is up. How about that? That's an hour for you. But right now, we're honored to have former Congressman and Fox News host Trey Gowdy back on the show with host of Sunday Night in America. And Mr. Gowdy, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with everything that's going on around the country. Clearly, you're keeping yourself busy writing books.
Well, I try to keep one eye on the news and one eye on sports, and then I write. So I guess that means I got three eyes. But yes, I'm trying to do it all. But I do love to write. Actually, it's probably my favorite thing to do.
Kind of cathartic, you're right. To get you, and this kind of gets you away from the reality of it. What was it that led you into the thriller realm? Was it all those years of intrigue working in the halls of Congress?
Well, I was a prosecutor for almost 16 years before I ever went to Congress.
Right.
And that, truth be told, is the job that I would prefer that people remember. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to remember me, period. But when they come through the receiving line before they ask my wife out on a date, I hope they say, he was a pretty good prosecutor.
That's good. That's good. So I think we had you on when you had your first book out. This is a sequel. Is that correct?
It is both a sequel, but even if you didn't read the first book, you can pick this one up. It's a standalone, but some of the characters are the same.
The Sound of Regret. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, in the first book, you referenced The Color of Death. That kind of explores the real relationship between prosecutors and crime victims. I mean, the best prosecutors put themselves in the stead of the victims. It's really hard to do when the victim's dead. It takes a toll on you, actually. This one explores witnesses. I was talking to actually Tim Scott, one of my senators, last night about the choices that we give people in the criminal justice system. So imagine you're a 17-year-old young man. You made a terrible mistake selling drugs, and the prosecutor walks in and says, you can spend 2 decades in prison, or you can become a rat. You can become a witness for me. Put on a wire, go work for me. sometimes they choose that and they wind up dead. So the regret and the sound of regret, and I've actually had it happen in real life, is going to tell the parents of a young man who trusted you that their child was killed because they were helping the government.
Wow. Well, I'm just curious then, given your legal background, have you been following this whole Lindsay Clancy case? Because yesterday I watched all these videos of, I don't know how many, 200 or some odd moms who were out there wearing pink shirts saying they support Lindsay. And it's so contentious because people were talking about, postpartum depression, but then where do we draw the line on how much, sympathy you have for her? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I had moms whose daughters were killed by their boyfriends that came to me and asked me to let them not plead to murder. I don't understand that level of compassion or empathy or sympathy, or maybe even a more pejorative word. My sympathy is with the 3 kids who never had a chance to even experience their 10th birthday. I can tell you, I've had folks killed by every manner of killing you can conjure. To strangle someone requires time, effort, and commitment. And the fact that you didn't ask for Joan of Arc when you woke up, you asked for your lawyer, tells me, look, I'm not minimizing postpartum depression. I mean, it really happens. But how many of those women go on to kill their children? Mm-hmm. Leave the daggum house. Leave. Go somewhere else. But why do you have to kill the kids?
Yeah. I heard Drew is it Pensky? Is that his name? Dr. Drew?
I'm not sure.
Who was on Fox the other night talking about the multitude of medicines that she was on. And I think it was Hannity who said, how does that happen in America that somebody could be on all these different medicines that somehow conflict with each other? And he's like, well, unless you're going to one doctor, she could have been doctor shopping. I mean, we don't know quite what was going on there, but clearly she wasn't getting the care she needed.
Yeah, well, that's when you call the pharmacist to see whether or not she is doctor shopping, because the pharmacist would say, look, you really shouldn't be taking this cocktail. I think when they did call the healthcare experts, they said she never expressed any reservations about the drugs that she was on, and they specifically asked about suicidal or homicidal ideation, and she denied it. I mean, people who are psychotic, do they really tell their husband, hey, go run an errand while I take the time to strangle our 3 children? Maybe she does need to be in a mental hospital. That's for the jury to decide. But if she's trying to get off, if she's trying to be found not guilty by reason of insanity, I mean, do any of your listeners want her to be their next door neighbor? I don't.
No, I think that's a fair question. We're talking to Trey Gowdy, the host of Sunday Night in America. He's got a new book out called The Sound of Regret. It is a sequel, as he said there a minute ago. I think since we talked last time, first of all, let me give you my condolences on the loss of your friend Lindsey Graham.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you remember this or not. When I had you on the last time, I told you the story that Lindsey asked my wife out one time. Years ago, we worked.
Yes, I do remember.
Remember that?
And your wife made a really, really good decision. She said no.
I remember you saying that at the time,
Yes.
and I appreciate that. But we had a relationship with him. Obviously, we knew him as well, and it was a great loss to the country and the state of South Carolina. Can I get your comments on the race now? Because I saw where the president is coming to South Carolina today, I think, to campaign for Darlene Graham. And she's been taking a lot of heat. I think she's up against Ralph Norman, another congressman from down there. She's been taking a little bit of heat for her debate performance and some other questions about her experience. What's your take on all that?
I would bifurcate those two, and I talk to Darlene almost every day. Darlene would be the first to tell you she did not handle that question well. And I would be the first to say everyone who speaks for a living makes a mistake, from Sophocles to Pericles to Ronald Reagan. So the experience thing I find interesting because I can count a handful of male senators who started political service in the Senate. And I don't remember a single person commenting on their lack of experience. Donald Trump had no political experience. Dwight David Eisenhower had no political experience. It used to be that we actually wanted people with a fresh set of eyes. Ralph has been in office for 20-something years and has run for 2 different offices just this year. For a guy that supports term limits, You got to help me understand that. So I'd rather have. I think what Darlene's done in 20 days, burying a brother, no interest in politics, to being the lead vote getter coming out of the first primary. Look, Taiwan is our friend, period. China is not, period. But I don't like judging people based on their worst moment or their best moment. I like to take the full body of evidence.
Interesting. Yeah, good. An interesting take on that. I'd not heard it from that perspective. Trey Gowdy, listen, best of luck with the book, the Sound of Regret, and hope we can get you on again soon.
I'd love that. Y'all have a great weekend.
All right. Nice talking to you again. Former Congressman Trey Gowdy, former prosecutor Trey Gowdy, because he says that's how he'd like to be remembered.
Yeah, done a lot of things, worn a lot of hats for sure.
Yeah, and clearly is in the Darlene Graham camp there in South Carolina. It's pretty split. I'm anxious to see what happens next week. The president's got a lot on the line, and they need more people like Trey out there defending her.
Yeah,
I think he did a good job defending her
he
there.
Did.
Now it's up to the people of South Carolina to decide if that's the person they want representing them in the Senate.
The challenge, though, is he's saying you don't want to take someone at their worst moment or their best moment. You kind of want to average it out. But the problem is there's only a select number of times we're going to get a chance to hear her stance on policies and things like that. So unfortunately, there's not really time for that. I mean, we have to take her for her word at this point when it comes to foreign policy and some of these key issues, because she'd be a U.S. senator. This isn't some small, I say small, being a state lawmaker is still a very big deal. But I just mean this is federal. This is a big deal.
I don't know either of them. Tara Servatius is a well-known talk show host down in Greenville, South Carolina. In fact, she hosts at one of our sister stations down there. I've had a chance to meet her a couple times. She's all in for Ralph Norman. I've been watching her on X as the more conservative of the two choices. So we'll see how South Carolina goes. That's an interesting discussion there. All right, coming up, we will get to our Queen of Hearts drawing, and we'll talk to County Councilman Joe Brazel about that whole mess with flock cameras in St. Charles County.
On the roads this morning, not bad. Eastbound 70 still looks great. 64, just a little bit of volume around 170 in Big Bend. Northbound 270, moderate volume at 21. And on either side of Manchester, 55 looks good. And just some moderate volume westbound 64 on the Illinois side as you head toward 157. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, I love the fact that Victory Men's Health has got its brand new location opened up over there in Glen Carbon and Edwardsville. You're going to have a great opportunity if you live in that area. It's big. It's bigger than all their other offices. I think it's beautiful. And that, of course, is in addition to the one they have in O'Fallon, Illinois, off Greenmount Road. Been to all those locations at Town and Country, O'Fallon, Missouri, Sunset Hills, down off of Lindbergh and Watson there. You're going to get the same great attention and detail from the medical professionals at Victory Men's Health, regardless of which location you go to. The key here, guys, my message for you today, the takeaway, is to reach out to them and get started. I've been going to them for over close to 8 years now, and what a difference it makes in your energy level and your attitude, and recovering from injuries, helping you with workouts, your job, your sports, anything you're doing. Victory's going to help you. They can help you with weight loss, vitamin deficiencies. They can optimize your hormones, whatever it takes. If you're having sexual health issues, don't suffer in silence. Seek the medical professionals at Victory Men's Health, where they're on your side. Schedule your appointment today. Tell them Marc Cox sent you. It's victorymenshealth.com.
The time now is 8:20, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. We've got the Queen of Hearts drawing coming up at about 8:50, so make sure you got your cards ready.
We saw an unusual high number for one of the users. And as we dug into that, they brought that to my attention. I started an internal investigation immediately. And then it was determined, these weren't law enforcement investigative searches. They were personal.
Yeah, that was Chief Kurt Frizz there talking about what's going on in St. Charles County, the employee who got caught through an audit abusing the flock camera system to track someone she shouldn't have been tracking, resigned or was fired, one of the two, gone, now out of the system. So you could argue the audit worked in St. Charles County, but now what they're doing is pretty much shutting down those flock cameras. We've got St. Charles County Councilman Joe Brazel on the line with us this morning. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm assuming you are in support of getting rid of these cameras, at least as we know them today, correct?
Well, that's correct. Yesterday, I immediately called our county councilor, and Tim Baker and myself are sponsoring a bill to ban all cameras in St. Charles County, and including there's Syntex. There's Flock is the brand name, and from what I understand, they canceled the contract yesterday, and they did put bags over all of them. So they took immediate action. So that's a good thing. The administration and the police chief and the police department did take immediate action. However, I don't want this to be some temporary thing and let it cool down and then they just go back at it.
I guess
so. I propose an ordinance to ban them all in the county.
I guess my question is what is like I heard the chief say something about the fact that he's sad to lose that tool. So clearly Flock is one. Is there something specific about Flock or the way it tracks things that's different from the did you call it Syntex, the other license plate reader?
Yeah, there's Syntex. Yeah, we have cameras in our parks too, by all of our parks. And that they say is there to catch, child pedophiles and stuff like that. And, so, I mean, it's a good thing. Here's the thing is, they're helpful to law enforcement, but you can't give up your liberties like that. It's always 1 inch at a time. The acorn turns into an oak tree and it just gets worse and worse. And people will argue that, well, they're great for crime investigations. They're great for the robbery. If somebody got abducted, you would want that tool. I agree with all those things. However, there's always going to be abuses, and you can't be giving up your liberties like this. And so the flock camera market, from what I said, I understand that they can exchange data, sell data. They can track anybody's car. They'll know where you're going to point A to point B, where you're shopping. I mean, what I don't understand is they're used not what the intention is. I'm not law enforcement uses them for the proper intention, but they can be used through the flock companies in other ways. And so I don't think that's just way too much surveillance for us as citizens in this country. It's just a violation of our liberties and our rights and our privacy.
I think a Brentwood police officer had been investigated, I don't know when, but I would think semi-recently, for using the flock cameras to, I guess, stalk or look into his ex-wife's whereabouts when they were going through a divorce or something like that. And I don't know what came of that investigation, but I would have to imagine that Brentwood is still using the flock system. So I was a little surprised that because of this one incident that St. Charles County just decided, hey, let's just put an end to it. I mean, do you feel like that's kind of the route that any department should go if there's any sort of an investigation like this or a situation where you have actual misuse?
Well, absolutely, because there's been a lot of people complaining about it, saying that they're over. It's a burden to our privacy anyway. And so, in this instance, though, it was a person who was stalking their ex. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then stalking the ex partners, whoever this person was dating. Then this person was checking their license plates out. There was like 70 instances or something like that. And so it wasn't just a one or two time thing. It was going on for months. And so, and like you said, Mark, you could say, well, the audit did work. Well, yeah, but how many times did they miss this audit? How many times has this gone on without them catching the person?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. And so I think that I just don't think this is the way we should go. I just don't. It's just, with AI and all this stuff going on, it's just way too much surveillance. It's just way too much invasion of privacy. It's against our constitutional right. We have a right to be wherever we want to be without people knowing where we are. I mean, that's how I see it.
How do you?
So,
I know you try to take stock of these things before you go before council with something. Do you feel like you've got any support among the other council members?
Well, I know with Baker, and I haven't really spoke to the other ones. We're having a work session on it, but in my view, as being a logical, reasonable person, how could you not? I mean, how could you really think it's okay to do that? And they could say, well, you had one bad apple in the barrel. Well, yeah, but that's one bad apple that we caught. You know what I'm saying?
Steve Ellman, I saw where Channel 4 reported he was out of town and had not been available for comment. Do you have any idea where he'd come down on this?
I have no idea. I mean, he's got an opponent for a Democrat running against him in the general election, but I don't know if I don't know. He may just stay neutral in it. I don't know. I honestly don't know where he'd come down on this. It's really going to be up to the council, though. It's not he doesn't vote, so it just depends on what we come up with.
Well, and these decisions are. It's good that they're made locally. I did see where Senator Nick Schroer put out a press release from the Freedom Caucus saying he would be pushing for a statewide ban on these flock cameras when he gets back to Jeff City.
Well, he was the first person I called when I found out about this, and because we were talking about it before, it's like this is a problem, man. And until something like this happens, people think, oh, well, why do you worry if someone's watching? I'm not doing anything wrong anyway. Why do you care? Well, come on. I mean. I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't break the law, but I still don't think I don't think the government should know where you are all the time. It's not just reading. They say it reads the license plate. They put out a license plate, and they put that out, and it's supposed to read that, but they read everybody's license plate. Yeah. Everybody's license plate gets read,
Joe,
and they collect data.
I'm running out of time, my friend. Thanks for giving us some time this morning, and let us know when this is going to come up for a vote.
Okay, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon. County Councilman Joe Brazel there from St. Charles County. Best comment on the comment line this morning was, wait a minute, my phone tracks when I have bowel movements, and we're worried about flock cameras. I don't know if that's a correlation or not, but we are monitored in a lot of different ways these days. There's no doubt about that. All right, we'll be back in just a minute.
I'm Nicole Murray with Your Money Now. NVIDIA is denying a report by The Information that said it plans to begin shipping a language processing unit tailored for Chinese customers by year end, saying it has no China-specific version of the product on its roadmap. Reuters had reported back in March that NVIDIA was preparing a China-compatible version of AI chips. Broadcom is in talks with a group of lenders to raise more than $60 billion in debt for an AI chip financing deal that would benefit Anthropic and other companies. Bloomberg News reports that the numbers under discussion would potentially bring the total raised to as much as $100 billion. Australia's transport safety regulator said it has launched an investigation into a fourth incident involving air traffic control at Sydney Airport in less than a month after two planes were directed towards the same intersection on the ground. A Qantas Airbus A321 preparing to depart to the Gold Coast braked to avoid another Qantas aircraft, a Boeing 737. Futures are higher this morning. That's your money now.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor, and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Well, traffic-wise, eastbound 270, we've got a jam now. There's an accident approaching the Canal Bridge, and it's left us with a parking lot jam back across the Chain of Rocks Bridge. But westbound is fine if you're headed in from Illinois. Now, 70 eastbound looks good this morning. 6440 is in pretty good shape now as well. It's pretty well thinned out. But there's a little bit of volume northbound 270 approaching 64. And on the Illinois side, it's pretty quiet in general. So not bad at all. This report brought to you by the Diamond Shop. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. They are awesome. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
When's the last time you had you went to the doctor, right? You schedule regular doctor visits because you want somebody who knows what they're doing looking at your health. You should also do that with your yard, and one way you do that is by having one of the arborists from Hanson's Tree Service come out and take a look for you. They understand the diseases that are moving through various trees and shrubs, including one right now that's affecting evergreens, according to my friend Chad Hansen, and they can diagnose that for you and treat it before it's too late. If you got a big, beautiful evergreen in your yard, you don't want to risk losing it. You need to get one of these arborists out there and let them take a look, and they can spot things that you and I are just never going to see. If you need trees or limbs removed because of the storm, Hanson's Tree Service will get that taken care of for you as well, and they also deliver mulch, which I love because they take the trees back that they chop down and they make their own mulch. And then you can pick out what you want right online. And in many cases, they can deliver it right to your driveway. 636-379-1830 is the phone number. Reach out to them today. Tell them Mark sent you. It's hansonstree.com.
All right. Have you heard of Alpha-Gal?
Oddly enough, I have, because I know somebody who has it. I've just had this conversation with her recently, in fact.
I had not heard of this until maybe a few months ago. And then when I started Googling it, I realized that this is a lot more common than we think. The cases for Alpha-Gal across the United States are rapidly on the rise. And there's someone who knows a lot about that. And that is our next guest, Heather Mincer. She and her son, they both have Alpha-Gal. And that actually inspired her to start her company, Yes Honey. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
So for people who have never heard of Alpha-Gal, tell us what it is.
So Alpha-Gal is a tick-borne allergy that if you're bit by a Lone Star tick, you could develop an allergy to mammalian meats and byproducts.
So in other words, when you first got this, after moving to Missouri, in fact, we should point out, relocating here, right, from up on the East Coast somewhere.
Upstate New York.
You thought you had Lyme disease. How did you determine what it was?
Yeah, I did. I had no idea about Alpha-Gal, and I was very aware of Lyme disease. Excuse me. And after I knew I had been bit by ticks, and I started having symptoms consistent with Lyme disease. And so one of the ways to combat that in a natural way, combat the symptoms, is eating a carnivore diet. So I was strictly eating mammalian products, along with chicken.
Well, that's
and fish.
I was going to say that's what's so interesting about Alpha-Gal is, right, you can't have a lot of the meat specifically, right? The red meat?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And so that's what I was eating all of the time, and I was getting more and more sick, and I didn't understand why. And so I finally went to the doctor, and they did a blood test, a simple blood test, and let me know that I had Alpha-Gal, and I needed to stop eating meat right away.
Yeah, it's something that really I think has just popped up on most people's radar, and I would assume that, what is the illness like? That maybe you can describe that to people, but in case somebody's had some of these symptoms and just didn't realize it.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people are maybe misdiagnosed with IBS or potentially just some other allergies. A lot of times people have gut issues. They just are having vomiting. They might be having diarrhea. They might be having hives. Some people have full anaphylaxis, headaches. The list goes on. I'm not going to be able to hit them all, but it can be pretty intense. And a lot of times people may be going to the doctor and their doctor's like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, I don't see anything, because they're not doing the Alpha-Gal specific, the IgE test. And then they're just continuing to suffer and thinking that they're crazy, but they're not. It very well could be Alpha-Gal.
Something that's very interesting about this is, and I was talking about how these cases are on the rise. I had no idea that Missouri's governor, Mike Kehoe, had just signed this bill into law, but I think it was back in July, where he made Alpha-Gal syndrome basically a mandatory reportable condition, meaning if a lab were to detect it, I guess with blood work like you had done, Heather, then they would have to report the test results to the state.
Yes, which is really great for those of us with Alpha-Gal, because there's really no good reporting or evidence about how many people actually have Alpha-Gal. And I think that would be really important for many people to know, but specifically people like grocery stores, anybody that produces food, because like in my issue with, anybody with Alpha-Gal, you're going to the grocery store and you're just, especially when you're first diagnosed, you just don't know what you can and can't have. And there's so many, the biggest thing for people with Alpha-Gal, it's pretty easy to stay away from a steak or ribs or things like that. But it's the hidden ingredients in a lot of foods that people don't realize can be causing them reactions. They might have removed the meats and they're still having something that they would never suspect, or they're using, I've heard of people reacting to certain types of toilet paper because there's some mammalian product in it. So things like gelatin, a lot of people don't think about their pharmaceuticals, their medications that they're on. A lot of them come in gel caps. They may have magnesium stearate. There's just so many ingredients that we really need to be careful about. And not everybody's reactive to the same things. And that's what also makes it unique and somewhat difficult to diagnose, because just different products affect people differently, and people's reactions can vary very dramatically as well.
Sure. We're talking to Heather Mincer. She suffers from Alpha-Gal and is the founder of a company called Yes Honey. And before we get into the company, I have to ask, what was your background coming into this? Was your Was your passion for what you're doing now driven by your illness, or did you already have a background in like nutrition and things like that?
Well, my family has gone through a lot of different health journeys, I guess I could say, and just doing a lot of research for our own benefits and just trying to find out things that were better for us. And that kind of morphed into our changing over all of our sugars. We switched over to honey and maple syrup. We were pasture raising chickens, raising a lot of our own meat, vegetables, things like that. And that's where my company got its start.
Okay, so before we get started on that, please tell me that it was your husband, Marty, who came up with the name, because he always says, yes, honey.
Well, no.
That would have been smart on his part.
Yeah. That's what we say with the brand all the time, is that yes, honey is what every woman wants to hear.
Yep.
And people can remember the brand that way because everybody uses that term. It's very endearing.
But tell us about the company, because the products you have, I guess, are not, I mean, just for people who have alpha-gal, but it's supposed to be alpha-gal safe, right?
Exactly, yeah. So my thought was that our products are for everybody, but with special thought to those who have alpha-gal or any type of allergy, because we're also gluten-free, free of artificial dyes, colors, and flavors. So we are beekeepers, and also honey, that's obviously part of the brand, is very important to us. And so I have a line of honey-sweetened sodas. So not only are they great for people with allergies, but people that might be trying to get rid of things with high fructose corn syrup. Maybe they don't prefer stevia. So we offer a really light and refreshing soda that people can actually feel good about. And we also have a line of honey drizzlers, which is our sauce and syrup alternative. It has 2 or 3 ingredients. We have multiple flavors, and you can use them somewhat like a sauce. So like we have a chocolate honey, which is phenomenal, and it's a great alternative to like a chocolate syrup that might have 20 ingredients that you may be unsure about.
Wow. So you guys live where? Norwood, Missouri? Is that what it's?
Norwood? Yep. Norwood, Missouri. We're about an hour east of Springfield.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good. So tell people more about how they can find out about your brand and where they can get it. Is it all through the internet, or are you in stores now?
Well, yeah, we're in about 500 stores across the country. Hy-Vee is one of our major grocery stores. We sell in Fresh Time in St. Louis and some other retailers. We've all over in Springfield, and then they are certainly welcome to go to our website, which we love, which is yeshoneybrand, brand.com. They can find us on Amazon, and we would love a follow, too, on social media, Yes Honey Brand.
Heather, let me ask one last question about alpha-gal. Is there an end to it? Didn't I understand the person I know that has this led me to believe that the symptoms obviously prevent you from eating meat, but there's a possibility you might be able to get back to that. Am I correct about that?
Yes, there are 2 things. One is that some people just grow out of it. Okay. I've had a number of people that I know that after 5 years, and like this isn't a hard, fast rule, but it just happened for them about 5 years in. It just started to go away, and they were able to eat meat again, which is fantastic. And the other option is something called SAT, S-A-A-T. It's an acupuncture treatment. Some tiny little acupuncture needles go in your ear, and it can help alleviate the symptoms of alpha-gal. It doesn't make alpha-gal completely go away, but a lot of people have had success where they're able to eat meat, or some people are fume reactive. So if you're cooking a burger in your home, they could have pretty significant symptoms, vomiting, headaches, things like that. And that SAT treatment may help alleviate those symptoms for them. So people have been finding a lot of benefit from doing the SAT treatment.
Fascinating stuff. And Heather, thank you for giving us a few minutes this morning. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, take care of yourself. I appreciate getting you on here. Founder of the company Yes Honey, which I'm sure you could Google and find more details on. She said Fresh Time in St. Louis.
Yep. It's just so
carries some
wild.
of the product.
You can be smelling it, and that can cause a reaction. It's not like you have to eat it or touch it.
Yeah.
And I do know of somebody who had it, she did all kinds of, really crazy as in like a lot and very expensive treatments, and she was able to get over it within like a year or two. But the average Joe probably wouldn't want to maybe spend that much time or money. She had the time. She's an influencer, so she had the time and money, I guess, to do it. But it is no little thing how your life would flip upside down if you had that.
I agree. Back to the bill you were talking about there, what the governor signed. Nick Schroer texted me and said that was part of his bill, and also the Lyme Disease Eradication Act that the governor signed.
Did not know that.
He put that in there to begin with. All right, quick break. We will be back here in just a minute with our Queen of Hearts drawing.
Looking pretty good on the roads. Eastbound 270 still a little slow at the Chain of Rocks Bridge. That all due to an earlier accident. 70 eastbound looks great. 6440 really does as well. And northbound 270, just some right at Manchester. For the most part, other than that, we're in good shape. There was some moderate volume eastbound 5570 past 203 as you head through the construction zone. But for the most part, we really are in good shape, and we're definitely quiet on the bridges downtown if you're headed in from Illinois. This report brought to you by Midwest Gun Works. Whether it's time to repair or upgrade your firearm, get the right part the first time. Since 1997, Midwest Gun Works has been a trusted source for OEM parts, accessories, and expert gunsmithing. Shop MidwestGunworks.com or visit them in Peevely, Missouri. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Guns N' Hoses' Queen of Hearts.
That was
benefiting
sudden.
the St. Louis Backstoppers.
I'm playing air guitar and drums all at the same time. and
Trisha said you would
little
do
Rush.
that. She goes, as soon as we give
Oh,
Mark his
man.
music back, he's going to start his air guitar. Ladies and gentlemen, it took like a day for that to happen.
Spirit of the Radio by Rush there. By the way, time for the Queen of Hearts raffle winner this week, and that was the 9 of spades in slot number 14. On a $5 bet, the winner will get $25. And guess what? The jackpot's up to $20,888. All the money that is going to get split is going to go to the winner. and the other is going to go to Guns and Hoses, which ultimately means it's going to go to Backstoppers. So you need to get online and buy your tickets. Go to stlgunsandhoses.com. That's just the letter N between those two words, stlgunsandhoses.com, and you can buy your tickets. By the way, tickets are already on sale now for actual Guns and Hoses in November 25th. You can buy your tickets right now, and it's almost always a sellout. So it'd be a good idea to go ahead and grab your seats early. And you can also buy your Queen of Hearts raffle tickets on there, $5 each, or you buy 5, you get 1 free. So best of luck to everybody out there. Yeah, this has been a good week. Even Jim Carafano noticed that my music was back. Didn't you hear that earlier?
He did.
Thank you. People missed that. I missed it.
Well, people are saying they missed the elevator music that we were playing for about a day during the commercial breaks.
I think that was tongue-in-cheek.
I don't know. I think people liked it. You had such strong feelings about, I forget what was it called? There are a few different ones I was picking. Some of you did not like a couple that I chose, but the rock one, y'all were a fan of.
That was better, yeah. Anyway, if you're just catching up, we had to take some of the licensed music off of the social media feeds because the people like YouTube and Facebook and all that were trying to charge us for it, a fee for music playing on their platforms, and it just got to be too much of a hassle. So now that we're not doing that, we're able to play regular music again at the beginning and end of my segments. That makes me very happy. Very, very happy because I got to pick all of them. So that was good. Guess what? So two things I want to get to here very quickly. First of all is this debate over Natalie Harp. None of this, I brought it up yesterday. I hesitated to do it. It keeps making national news. We got all these big stories going on, and the left is all hung up in the media on some outrageous allegation by Senator Ossoff from Georgia that there's something going on between Donald Trump and one of his aides. I mean, seriously, this is what they're mad about. They just hate Donald Trump so much they'll say anything. Hugh Hewitt chewed him a new one yesterday over this, and I loved this. He was on Fox last night. It might have been Ingram, but listen to this. He did great.
Natalie Harp is absolutely above board. John Ossoff, what he said was repulsive. He's been repudiated by David Axelrod and other serious Democrats. He should apologize for what is true about Atlanta.
President Trump left the Secretary of State and his Secretary of Treasury.
Natalie Harp has not had any relationship with the president. It's disgusting.
He didn't say that. He just said he wanted to play with her.
To insinuate that is disgusting.
Listen, I know you're clutching your pearls, but
do you
it's a
think
little
it's
rich
true?
After the
do
last
you
10
think
years
it's true? No, you don't. You know it's a lie by Ossoff.
Yeah, thank you, Hugh Hewitt. That's the answer to any Democrat that starts down that line. Do you think it's true? And, of course, they have no proof of that whatsoever. So it's just noise being brought up at the left right now. Here's the other thing I wanted to play for you before we run out of time today. I don't really do a bite of the day, but you got to hear this Angie Nixon bite. She's the crazy DSA candidate, socialist who won in Florida, and she's now running for Senate down there. Doesn't have an ice cube's chance. But listen to what she said today about prisons. She called prisons modern-day slavery. Listen to this.
And also, it's not radical, it's not extreme to want to make sure that we end for-profit prisons. What's wrong with that? Because all they want is cheap labor or free labor, modern day slavery, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to end those things. There is nothing wrong with wanting to make sure that people have the things that they need to live a decent, high quality life.
She may fail for the main reason that her voice is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I just got to say, besides the stupidity of her political positions, that voice might just doom her there. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thought I'd play that for you. All right, have yourselves a great Friday. Enjoy that weather. Kim and Ethan and I will be back here Monday morning at 5 a.m. We'll see you then. Kilmeade's up next.
Yeah, boy!